To order. Today is Monday, June 26th, and I would like to welcome everyone here at City Council. If everyone would kindly please stand for the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Members of the audience, if you have any item to which you would like to speak on, please fill out a card located at the back of council chambers and pass them up to us, please. All right, may I have a roll call?
Ms. Christensen?
Here.
Mr. Gingona?
Here.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Present.
Ms. Manalo?
Present.
Mr. Sylvester?
Present. Thank you. Okay, the first item on the agenda is presentations, and we have an update on San Francisco State Campus construction projects. And if I can have Dr. Les Wong come up, please. Or, is it there? All right. Good evening, Dr. Wong. Do you have an assistant or a PowerPoint or anything? Is it all taken care of? Okay. All right, great.
We're going to hand some things out.
All right, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, staff, et cetera. I really appreciate the opportunity to address you and speak to you. It's been a long time coming, and I know that a couple of you are alums as well, and so that's really nice. I want to do three quick things and maybe leave a couple minutes for questions. Number one, talk about some of our students who come from Daly City, talk about the graduation initiative that is at San Francisco State, and then cover some major building projects that sound very similar to what you were just talking about just a moment ago. I wanted to share with you that looking at our demographics for fall 2016, San Francisco State currently is one of 3 CSU campuses that enrolls more Asian and Filipino students than most of the 23 CSU campuses. You probably know this, but only San Jose State has more Asian students, and Cal State East Bay has more Filipino students. Approximately a third of our students are of Asian descent, and a third of our students are of Latino descent. Business majors are our most popular undergraduate majors. About 20% of our total student body are majoring in business, and currently we're sitting at around 29 to 30,000 students on the main campus on 19th Avenue and Holloway. Again, Asian Pacific Islander students are about 8,392, and as a percentage of all our students, that's about 29%, and that does not include, and it's always a little tricky, we have a large number of mixed race children, half of whom are Asian, and some estimates put our student population who have some Asian descent at nearly 40% of the student body. Filipino students, as a percent of the total, are about 8%. That's about 2,198. And probably of greatest interest to you is that we currently have 168 students from Daly City high schools. About 114 from Westmore, and about 54 students from Jefferson High School. I wanted to share with you the CSU system, which includes San Francisco State. The 23 campuses are committed to what is called the Student Success Graduation Initiative. And that'll be very challenging for us, and it requires that by 2025, we will graduate at least 20 to 22% more students per year than we currently do. And that is a very dramatic goal, but I think we can do that.
So that would be how many?
Right now, at the end of 5 years, we graduate. Right after about 5 years, we graduate roughly about 55%. And there's, I don't know if you know, you might have friends that have graduated recently. We moved our commencement to AT&T Park. And We're one of only 2 schools in the country that Major League Baseball allows commencement. So NYU at Yankee Stadium and San Francisco State at AT&T Park. And it's one huge event. Invite Mr. Mayor and the City Council to come. Our average attendance at graduation for the last 3 years is about 38,000
Oh, my goodness.
folks, and it's standing room only. We're very, very proud of that with fireworks at the end. And so the graduation initiative will hopefully push us into the 75% graduation rate. And we think that will be a benefit to, certainly to Daly City and to San Francisco, South San Francisco, and to our service district, including Tiburon. I wanted to share with you that just as you were talking about affordable housing, that has been and is our #1 challenge at San Francisco State. We actually are undergoing maybe the most significant cultural transformation of a public major university. For 117 years, we've been a commuter campus, and we are slowly transitioning to a residential campus. And that will allow us to provide affordable, below-cost housing for students. And as I will share with you in a moment, it will provide affordable housing for faculty and staff. So, for example, the Holloway revitalization, which is the east-west street that intersects 19th Ave on the southern half of campus. We just received the green light to begin the revitalization and mixed-use facility on the first major block on 19th and Holloway. And it will provide affordable undergraduate student housing, a very significant demand, and certainly maintain our commitment to sustainability. To give you an idea, currently on that property sits about 74 beds. Not a very large, they're literally 1- and 2-level bungalows built just after World War II. Those are going to be demolished, and by 2020, that first development piece on Holloway will provide housing for 500 students in a 8 to 9 story facility. Fair market value rate of return on the parcel. It is one of the few mixed, I'll say, public-private partnerships between a developer and the university to provide that housing, which will provide us a fair market return on our investment. I do have a date. The bungalows that are there were built in 1940. And we will be taking those down. We hope that the 8-story building will have vendors, market, for example, other student-oriented businesses on the street level. And then once that's completed, we'll move to the next parcel of land to the west of that, and that will be not only administrative offices, but also additional housing above business and vendors along the street. To give you an idea, we're now at total, as of the end of spring term, we have about 3,700 beds on campus. And that's fairly typical for pretty much a commuter campus. By 2020, 2022, we hope to be around 10,000. So that functionally is about a tripling of the amount of student housing available for our students.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the housing that you're providing is basically for foreign and out-of-state students, correct?
No, it's California residents as well.
But not local. I mean, there's still going to be all of our local students will be taking public transportation. We
Generally,
hope.
but I don't have the number. I'm actually
Okay.
surprised at the number of Daly City and San Francisco's residents that live in our residence halls.
Okay.
So it's very
Thank you.
mixed in terms of the renters rent in there. For the first time in nearly 2.5 decades, we're actually going to build a new academic building that is a partnership between the CSU, the State of California, and San Francisco State. It's a new creative arts building, also on that Holloway Drive. It's now known as the Tapia Triangle. Also a source of low-level bungalow housing for students. We hope to move those students into the new Holloway development of 500 beds. We'll then take down the Tapia Triangle and put up a 4-story building that will house, we call it the Communication Arts Building. It will house the Broadcast and Electronics Communication Arts program. That is probably our second, they would argue, our first-rated, nationally ranked program. Most of the behind-the-camera actors, editing, announcers, and movie stars come out of that program. We are ranked just behind USC in terms of a film school and documentary films. The building will provide interdisciplinary lecture halls, administrative offices. To give you an idea, again, of the technicalness of the building, 2 full-height TV studios, TV newsroom, radio station, video post-production, audio recording production, and post-production space in addition to classrooms. In addition to that building, which will be right across the street from the McKenna Theater, we have enough space to look at the potential for a new performing arts, small, probably 500 to 600 seat performing arts building also on that property. If you come by now, and in fact, I believe in your packet, you have an architect's rendition of that broadcast electronics building. They're very, very excited, and as we all are, to put up a high-tech building. Our third construction project actually will be opening this September. A soft opening in August is the Mashouf Wellness Center. And if you're driving by the campus on the far west side on Lake Merced Boulevard, you'll see a very large, brand-new construction building right across the street from Harding Park. In 2009, 2010, prior to my arrival, students voted to tax themselves to put up, with a student fee, to put up a wellness center. Our alum, Manny Mashouf, who is the founder of BB Stores, helped paid for the remaining costs of that building. And it will be completed a year early. We'll have a soft opening, ribbon cutting in late August. We invite you all to attend. If you want to run in our second-story track, we will certainly open that up to you. The better part is the swimming pools, and I'll get to that in a moment. But the students voted to add a wellness center that will be focused not only on exercise, but will have rooms and programs on dietetics, eating right. There's going to be a yoga classroom, meditation center, et cetera. The president is expecting the GPAs of all the students to go up. And as I was mentioning to you, it's approximately 118,700 square feet, and I understand it's only one of 3 platinum recreation buildings in the country. It is really going to be magnificent. I say this in all seriousness. Please come to our opening. 2 court gyms, multi-activity gym, an elevated jogging track, weight and fitness centers, a swimming pool, recreation pools, and I say this with some jest, but also some seriousness, a very large hot tub in between these 2 swimming pools, certainly an Olympic-level climbing wall, racquetball courts, fitness studios, locker room storage, and support space. We really are, in addition to this transition from a commuter campus to a residential campus, a very significant commitment to sustainability and health and wellness, for not only for students, but for employees. And I want to close by also offering you something that we're doing with other municipal districts. Our students now are very interested in internships at local governments, et cetera. We can certainly work with Daly City. We currently place a significant number of interns with San Francisco, with South San Francisco. I believe we have an intern in the Romberg, Tiburon, Sausalito area. And as presidents like to brag, our Masters in Public Administration, our political science, our public policy programs are all very highly rated. The students come out of those programs snapped up by city governments, nonprofits, we're quite proud of those, and more than willing to work with the city of Daly City to set up an internship program here. Very, very bright students, of which I am terribly proud, and that could be something that could put some people power into your staffs, but also great educational experience for students. I wanted to thank you for this. I'm willing to entertain questions. It's often said that presidents of major U.S. campuses are like mayors, and so we have police, we have housing issues, food issues, emergency issues. We are literally a small city within the city limits of San Francisco, and we're proud to have a couple of you as our alums, and many, many of our employees and students living in Daly City community. I should mention to you that we're going to also pioneer what's called a Gator Pass this fall. That is a transportation pass that's part of the student card that reduces their BART, Caltrans, and Muni by almost half.
Nice.
That's very
And they
nice.
just tap it and come in. And a lot of your residents that take courses actually will BART into the Daly City Station
Right.
and then jump on the free shuttle that brings them to campus. About 70% of our students are on public transportation. And so the housing, et cetera, we're hoping to get more of them off the road and to campus very, very quickly. So that's us in a nutshell.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Wong. How about bicycles?
Yes, in fact, we actually, in our public policy, we have a huge SF bike program.
Yes.
We actually have huts, et cetera. We actually have installed they stand about, well, I'm short, probably about 6 to 7 feet high. There's 3 of them stationed around campus. You put your bike on them, and we have every tool conceivable for you to fix your bike hanging from that rack
Connected with like a cord, right? So
with a cord. So they can fix their bikes, take care of them. The sustainability office has a bike expert that helps them if they need help. But we have a lot of bikes. We have a lot of skateboards, which technically are illegal on campus, but certainly students use them to get to school.
Well, there may be some additional resources coming up, and we'll use that to stay in contact. I like the idea of your internship program. I've requested a follow-up on an intern program the past couple of council meetings ago. Now that you're here, you've definitely validated, and I think it's additional resource that this city can use at this present time. But I don't want to take up too much time. What I'd like to do is turn this over to Vice Mayor Manalo and thank her for making this presentation possible and coordinating with our city manager to get you to come here this evening.
you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Wong. It's really, with your presentation, it makes me want to go back to school again.
Oh, yeah. Makes me want to go gym.
And seeing the campus progress, and I'm really glad to be an alumni with twice over. I did my undergrad in Asian American Studies and Women's Studies, and did get my graduate degree in the Master's in Public
I
Administration.
was going to say, you're an MPA alum.
MPA alum, and so thank you for the presentation. As the mayor stated, it'd be great to have a partnership. We've heard from city staff around how fruitful it'd be to have internships, especially around kind of creating a pipeline.
Yeah, that would be terrific. And I could contact the city manager. We can work out.
We actually have worked with San Francisco
okay.
State on internship programs. We have a region-wide internship program that we
wonderful.
work with San Mateo County and all the cities to try and bring as many interns as we can into all the cities in San Mateo County.
All right, we look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
Doctor, thank you also very much for coming. The information you provided was very helpful and informative, and it's really good to know. I was curious about how, with respect to the policing of your university, and whether or not there have been any immigration enforcement issues on campus.
We do have a Dream Center and it's a very large population of students on campus, and the CSU has adopted a policy of non-cooperation with ICE and other federal authorities. We've had two experiences, federal authorities contacting us to look for people. Our response typically is, you have to have a federal warrant for us to respond to them. And so we do try to protect our Dreamers population. The other part of your question that's very, very interesting is the University Police Department has undergone a very significant change in getting our officers out of cars and off their motorcycles and literally going back to walking the beat 24/7 to increase the safety of the campus. We're an urban campus in a major city, and we have issues much like Daly City does in a lot of ways. But we try to raise the awareness of students so that they become eyes and ears to help us arrange for a much safer campus with each passing day.
Thank you.
It's a challenge, no doubt.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mike?
Dr. Wong, I want to commend you on your presentation. You know, my brother was a BCA major and worked for KRON for over 25 years, and my son's going to be going there in August, so
right.
he's in summer school now. So I like the fact that you've come here and made this presentation and basically enlightened us as to what San Francisco State's role has been for people that come from our city specifically. I'm happy about the fact that you're going to be doing all this building, and you know, the situation that you described wherein the students voted to tax themselves. I went to University of San Francisco Law School, and we did the same thing when we built the Corrett Center.
That's right.
But I graduated early, and we weren't able to use it. See, we were able to use it 1 year after we graduated. So the question I pose is that, as it relates to the community, will the community be able to use like the pool and these areas that you're going to be building for the students?
Right now, the students are most interested for the first 2 years to get it up and running and a service to the students who paid for it.
Absolutely.
So right now I'd have to tell you that's not the case. They're going to investigate and look at perhaps a fee, much like an athletic club kind of thing. Ironically, the faculty are negotiating with the students right now to make sure they have access.
Because they didn't get taxed, did they?
They didn't get taxed. In fact, the students did a very notable thing. The students who graduated from 2011 forward get a 1 year free
that's
pass
what they did for
because
us.
they've been paying fees while the building was being constructed. So I thought it was pretty noble for them to extend a year's membership to those students who, like you, graduated and never
Yeah,
got.
that's what they did for us at the Corrett Center.
Yeah. Looking
Well,
forward.
if they ever decide to make it available even on a fee basis to former faculty, I'll be in the pool.
Okay, I will note that down. All right.
Thank you.
Please do.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All right,
you.
Dr. Wong, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, may I have an approval for the agenda, please?
Move to approve.
Second?
First and second, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approval for, let me see, do we have
One
any?
item on the consent.
We have one item on the consent,
Got lots of,
and we're going,
lots of consent.
There's a question, there's a public comment.
so I'd like to pull item number 3 from the consent calendar. And that's all we have for the consent agenda. So with that being said, I'd like an approval for the consent agenda, items number 1 through 10, with the exception of number 3.
So moved?
First,
Second?
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda has been approved, and we'll go right to item number 3 on the consent agenda, and that's adopting the fiscal year 2018 Capital Improvement Program Budget Update. And we do have a speaker to this effect, and that would be Mr. Richard Clapp. Sir?
I don't know how I got into this.
Oh,
Is that-
okay,
is
Mr.
that
Clapp
not
is
what you want?
representing St. Francis Heights. Was there a particular item, Mr. Clapp? Do you,
You put down number 3.
Number of problems up there.
number 3?
Probably been this early again.
I'm sorry?
Well, a year since I've been in this.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
This is pertaining to the fiscal year 2018 capital improvement, or did you want to speak at public comment? Or this specific?
Public comment would be more appropriate.
Okay, all right, so,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Clapp. So
I'll put it down.
so, being said, I'd like the approval to add number 3, well, approval to accept number 3 from the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
Second.
First, second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, consent calendar has been approved.
All righty.
Next item is the check, oh, that's part of the consent calendar. Okay, moving to item number 12, City HUD Consolidated One-Year Action Plan for fiscal year 2017-18. We have staff, Ms. Obel, and welcome, Ms. Mothershead, and you definitely have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Before you tonight is the HUD Action Plan for fiscal year 2017-18, which describes how the city will use its federal housing and community development funds for the fiscal year that'll begin on July 1. Our community development block grant allocation for fiscal 17-18 will be $964,647, representing a 5% increase compared to the current fiscal year. Combined with projected loan repayment revenue and unspent funds from the current year, we estimate we will have a total of $1,062,101 in available community development block grant funds for fiscal year 17-18. The 17-18 action plan represents the 5th and final year of the city's 5-year HUD consolidated plan. A summary of the 17-18 CDBG funding recommendations are shown as Exhibit A to your staff report, and I will summarize. The draft action plan shows a total of $201,929 for program administration, $420,000 for housing activities, $336,672 for capital projects, and $100,500 for public services. In addition to Community Development Block Grant, the action plan describes how the city will utilize its federal home funds. For fiscal 17-18, the city will receive an allocation of $284,168 in federal home funds. This is about 14% more than what we received this year. Home funds are provided by the federal government specifically for affordable housing development. The draft action plan recommends that these funds be allocated to program administration and to support the development of new affordable housing. And staff will present a specific funding request when a project is identified. As for public comments, we have provided ample opportunities for community input on the plan. A summary of the action plan, as well as a notice of tonight's hearing, was published in the Examiner. The draft plan was made available on the city's website and also at the Daly City Libraries, at City Hall, and in the Community Service Center. To date, we have not received any comments. At this time, we are requesting that you conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution regarding the city's one-year HUD action plan for fiscal year 17-18. And I'm available to provide additional information desired by the mayor or council members.
Thank you, Ms. Obel. Any questions from council? I have one. Oh, Vice Mayor, did you have something?
I do.
Go ahead.
You said it's about a little over 200,000 for general administration. Can you elaborate on?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Can you elaborate on what?
What is, I'm sorry. I didn't understand the question.
What the general administration like?
To receive federal CDBG funds, there are a lot of requirements that HUD administrative requirements. We need to prepare an annual action plan. We need to administer the various contracts that are funded over the program, and that involves processing of invoices, evaluation of quarterly performance reports. We need to also prepare an annual performance report at the end of the year to HUD. Those are the major items that we have to do.
Okay. And then is it equivalent to like what staffing?
I believe at this point we are at about 1.3 staff persons that do that work on that.
Thank you.
Ms. Obel, earlier you made mention for capital improvements at a tune, I'm looking at Exhibit A, of $336,672. Is that capital improvements, or is that Section 8 loan payments? 'Cause
That is an annual scheduled Section 108 loan payment pertaining to development of the Bayshore Community Center. The city took out a big loan that was secured by future block grant funds, so we have about 5 more years of payments on that. And then it's paid off.
Thank you. All right, is there any other questions from council? At this time, I have a few cards on this, and I would like to open it up to public hearing at this time. Okay, the first card we have is, do I need approval to open up the public hearing? Okay, okay. First card I have is a Ms. Carrie Chen, in regarding rebuilding together. And the next one we have come up is a Trevor J. Yan. Trevor, if you can be ready for after Ms. Chen is done. Good evening, Ms. Chen. How are you?
Thank you. Good evening, City Council members. I am the Associate Director for Rebuilding Together Peninsula, and we have long partnered with the City of Daly City to provide free repairs to low-income homeowners here in your community. In the past, we've done this in partnership with the City of Daly City through 2 programs. Our Safe at Home program, which is a year-round program, through which we did 14 projects here in this city over the last year, and another 6 projects that we did this past April through our National Rebuilding Day program. Our services, because we prioritize low-income homeowners, really are serving some of the most vulnerable in your community. Just to give you some background, of the 6 homes that we did this April, 4 of them fall in the extremely low income category. Typically, they're making between $16,000 to $20,000 for the entire year to live on and balance all of their other repair needs and health needs and so on. And then of the 14 households that we serve through our Safe at Home program, 6 of those were in the extremely low income category, 4 were in the very low income, and 4 in the low income category. So we are serving, again, many of the lowest income folks. We do recognize that CDBG funding is under stress this year, and that it's a very difficult year for your staff in making decisions. And so we do recognize that in the process of that, our program funding is on part of what would be cut, assuming there is no increase in the CDBG funds. It is very difficult for us to continue to do a lot of repairs in this community without the city funds, because there's not a lot of private corporate funding that we've been able to leverage for the work. So whatever consideration for the future, we'd like you to keep us in mind. Thank you.
Okay, Shannon, if you come on back up. Thank you for that comment, and I'm looking here, Rebuilding Together Safe at Home.
Yeah, it's our Safe at Home and our National Rebuilding Day programs.
Right, so looks like we have 10,000 allocated.
That's if it, I thought the recommendation I saw was that if it was.
Yes.
The allocations, we did receive the allocations, and we do have enough funding available for the $10,000.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Ms. Chen.
I had old information.
All right, thank you so much for what you do. Okay, Mr. Trevor Yan, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Trevor Yan, the Legal Aid Society of San Mateo County, where I work as a housing attorney. I'm here this evening to thank you for funding our Home Savers project, as well as to give you some up-to-date statistics that will help inform, we hope, your policy decisions. In Daly City, we've seen a high proportion of no-cause evictions, and this is the chart that I gave to you for Hispanic and African American residents in particular. The chart shows that Hispanics make up 56% of no-cause evictions last fiscal year, compared to being 23% of the overall population, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Similarly, African Americans were 5% of no-cause evictions, while being 3% of the overall population. If the city is looking for policy intervention in this area to counter this alarming displacement trend, we recommend that the city promptly consider a local good cause for eviction protection ordinance. Another trend that we've noticed is with Section 8 housing choice vouchers. There are 4,000 housing choice vouchers in San Mateo County, and the success of this program relies on landlords' willingness to participate to rent to low-income residents. Legal Aid has observed in the past 18 months 17 Daly City clients with evictions from their long-term rentals because landlords have chosen that they will no longer participate in the program. If the city wants to bolster this already available and cost-effective form of affordable housing, we would urge you to adopt a local anti-discrimination or source of income ordinance. We hope these data will shed light on the eviction crisis that is occurring and provide some insight on how to address them. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer those.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Trevor, if you would kindly, I did get this, but if you would kindly send us something, recommendations,
Oh, sure.
please. I mean, seeing the stats here, but then as to how we can move forward later on in the future, so that we hear you tonight, but then it doesn't go through one ear and come out the other. We'd like to
We'd
have
be
some.
glad to write those down and
Great.
to send those to you.
All right.
And do you have sample ordinances and resolutions that have been passed by other cities in San Mateo County?
There are some that we've researched and we've advised other cities on them, so we can send those.
It would probably be a good idea to include that in the packet that you're going to email.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Now, you made mention that you did, I'm looking here on the list for the CDBG funding. Did we provide something for, is it legal aid home savers?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
$12,000.
All right. So maybe you can use a little bit of that to get us some language.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you represent the clients from the notice of eviction all the way through trial?
There are some clients that we provide full representation for. There are others, due to our capacity, that we can only help with doing improper answers in the litigation.
So, I mean, if someone is getting evicted, I want to make sure that person, there's continuity in the representation. Even if you, let's say, can't continue to represent them, you'll refer them to someone else?
So if we can't represent them, we do sometimes have pro bono attorneys who are willing to come in and represent. But unfortunately, due to the sheer volume of eviction cases, not everyone receives representation.
All right,
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. So what is the access point to reach you? For instance, there's people watching right now.
Sure. One of the places is across the street at the Daly City Community Services Center. We have a housing clinic every Tuesday from 1 to 4. We'll be there tomorrow. And we help anyone who comes with their housing issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next person to speak on this matter is a Miss Laura Fanucci, and this is in regards to HIP housing. And after her, we'll have Miss Gina Pappin. Let's see, Ms. Pappin in the audience? Oh, okay. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council and city staff. I'm Laura Fanucci from HIP Housing. I want to thank you for the long partnership that we've had to enable HIP Housing to provide our affordable housing programs, including our home sharing program, self-sufficiency program for families with children, and also to the property that we own, the 18 units on Hillside in Daly City. And the CDBG funding goes to help to support our home sharing program, where we match people who have a room for rent in their home with people who are looking for housing, who currently live, work, or go to school here in San Mateo County. Countywide, we usually have about 700 people a year who are matched in home sharing arrangements. And in Daly City right now, we have about 40. Some have been matched for a very long time. We have one match that's been going on since 2009 with 3 seniors. And the newly matched clients, we matched in this fiscal year about 13 residents. The seekers had incomes, on average income around $27,000 a year. They have jobs such as driving for Uber, receptionist. We had one client that works at Home Depot, with some home health aides, and some clients who were on fixed incomes, and one student at City College. And our home providers had approximately the same average income, mostly retired seniors on fixed incomes. And so we have a very robust outreach process. We have an office that we staff at the Daly City Community Center every Thursday to interview clients and to make the program available to them. So we're very thankful for your partnership support, and we look forward to continuing the service here in Daly City. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Finucci. I'll defer to the council member. I do want to say that I've seen the work that you do. Folks have called looking for places, and I tell them to go to your website because you match folks up, not only for folks looking for a place, but also folks who have places available that they come through HIP Housing. So I want to say thank you so much in helping us address the housing shortage, and especially in those times that's very stressful for folks that they have a resource to go to.
Yeah, we have about 250 residents that call our agency every year from Daly City that are looking for housing resources. So people can visit our website and find out more information at hiphousing.org. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Finucci. All right, Ms. Pappen. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. On behalf of John's Closet, thank you to the entire City Council and all the staff for your continued support of John's Closet. This is our 29th year of operation, a program born in Daly City, and we are very proud of that. We continue to operate with no overhead, no salaries, and an all-volunteer program. So every dollar goes to new clothing for children who then stand taller after leaving our program and go back to school with confidence, which builds great opportunity and achievement for them to succeed, not only in school, but in life. So we thank you very kindly for your support, continued support, and I assure you, really, the families that you are helping within Daly City are very, very low income. We had a visit from your auditors this year and looking at the applications, and it is amazing, and we thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Pappen. Any comments from council to Ms. Pappen?
Keep up doing the fabulous work that you do.
With your help, we will continue to do so. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ms. Pappen. I'd like to make a final comment on this matter, and I'd like to first thank my colleagues, Mr. Buenaventura and Mr. Gingona, for taking part in assisting with these allocations with the help of staff and Ms. Martell. You know, funding can be very limited, but I think the collaboration of all of you, you did an outstanding job because it's tough and everybody wants something. So I'd like to say it's very appreciated that you took the time and effort to put together this package. If I'm not mistaken, weren't we $20,000? I mean, $20,000 over, and that changed now? It's okay? I thought the previous one I saw, we were in a deficit of $20,000.
Our actual allocation from the federal government is higher than the current year, but we have less rollover from this year to next. So overall, we have a little bit less money next year.
But, okay, thank you, Ms. Obel. But again, thank you so much to my colleagues and staff for a great project and trying to keep everyone happy. Not too often do we get folks coming here saying thank you. So it's really appreciated to the members and the recipients in the audience. Thank you so much. So, let's see. Let's get back to the.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Yeah, we'll have to do a roll call. I'd like to close the public hearing at this time. I'll entertain Mr. Buenaventura's motion to accept the resolution.
Yes.
And we have a second by Councilmember Christensen. Roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Gingona?
Yes.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye. Thank you so much. Okay, the next item is item number 13, authorizing designation of voting delegate and alternate League of California Cities Annual Conference, September 13th through the 15th in Sacramento. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Martell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Annually, the League of California Cities has its conference wherein all members, cities, and other agencies of the League of California Cities meet. One of the highlights of the conference is held on the last day, and that's the annual business meeting. During the business meeting, the member cities come together to consider a series of resolutions that get forwarded to the League of California Cities Board of Directors. And during the business meeting, there is an opportunity for member cities to weigh in on the resolutions that deal with various public policy positions that the League has taken. In advance of the annual conference, the League sends out the resolutions, so you have an opportunity to review what public policy resolutions will be considered at the business meeting. So tonight, staff is requesting that, on behalf of the League of California Cities, that the council make a determination as to who will be the official delegate, the voting delegate of the city of Daly City. And the council may also, in addition to selecting an official delegate to vote on behalf of the city, up to 2 alternate members of the council to serve in the event that the official delegate finds themselves in a position where they are not able to participate in the meeting. So we are able to identify up to 3 members of the council, only one of which would be the official voting delegate and have the official voting card at the business meeting. But if the official delegate wants to transfer that voting right to a second or third member of the council, those names have to be submitted in advance, and they have to be approved, and they have to receive credentials to be able to serve in that alternate capacity. So we need to make a selection among yourselves, and then we have a form that we will transmit to the League of California Cities designating the official delegate and up to 2 alternates to attend the business meeting that will be held on Friday, September 15th at 12:30 p.m. at the conclusion of the annual conference. The annual conference this year will be held in Sacramento at the Sacramento Convention Center. And so with that, I will await the direction of the council, and then we will submit whatever the council's decision is to the League of California Cities.
Thank you, Ms. Martell. Any comments from the council? Vice Mayor?
Just trying to move this along, so I nominate Mayor Glenn Sylvester to be the delegate.
Second.
I'll accept. Do we take a vote? Roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
It's fine by me.
Mr. Gingona?
Yes.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Yes, thank you.
And the council should have at least one alternate in the event that the mayor, for whatever reason, finds himself unable in a couple of months to attend. So
I'd like to nominate the vice mayor.
Second. Roll call.
Ms. Christensen,
Yes?
Mr. Gangona,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye.
Okay.
We do have an option for a second alternate. Would,
I nominate Ray Buenaventura.
Second?
okay, roll call, please. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Ms. Christensen,
Yes?
Mr. Gangona,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. All right, thank you so much. All right, next item is finding of public convenience and necessity. PCN number 5-17-12802 to sell alcoholic beverages off-site consumption at Total Wine and More at 311 Gellert Boulevard. And we have staff, Mr. Lunkhausen. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. There's no PowerPoint presentation for this. The city staff essentially guides you through the staff report, and there's no recommendation either. That's the City Council can discuss amongst itself whether to grant this PCN, which is an acronym for Public Convenience and Necessity. The State Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control has determined that PCN is needed for Total Wine and More to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits at 311 Gellert Boulevard. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with that building, that is the current Ross department store. Ross will be moving to Saramani Shopping Center, of course, as you may know. And when they vacate, Total Wine and More is proposing to fill that space. Total Wine and More is proposing to obtain a Type 21 and Type 86 license. The Type 21 license would allow a full range of alcohol beverage sales for off-site consumption. The Type 86 license would allow basically tasting of alcoholic beverages. There are limits on the amount of alcohol that can be distributed to any one customer. It's 2 ounces per serving, no greater than 8 ounces per day that can be tasted, and so there are limits as to what can constitutes a tasting. The store would operate between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. On Monday through Saturday, and on Sundays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. So again, ABC has determined that a PCN is required here because of high crime in the area, and because of the overconcentration of stores that vend alcoholic beverages in that area, which would increase the overconcentration from 4 to 5. So again, the city staff does not give a recommendation on this. That the city council is obviously able to make a decision on it either way.
Thank you, Mr. Lunkhausen. We do have the applicant here. Prior to calling up the applicant, does council have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I have some questions for the applicant.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to public hearing. I have one card, but I'd like to bring up the applicant, Mr. Steve Rawlings. You're the applicant, sir, right? All right, great.
Hi.
And you will have some questions.
Okay. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, my name is Steve Rawlings. I'm here this evening on behalf of Total Wine and More. I had intended to give a short presentation, but it's sometimes easier to give the presentation with a handout.
Okay.
And I did bring a few along with me. And then obviously I can be happy to answer any questions, unless some of you might want to, unless Honorable Mayor, you want to have the questions asked now, and then maybe I can touch on some of those in my presentation, whichever you would prefer.
Thank you, Mr. Rawlings. Before you give your presentation, even though you may answer some of the questions in here, but why don't we just go right to the questions and
Great. Perfect.
hit them right up, Ms. Christensen.
Yeah, what kind of I mean, is this like a BevMo discount liquors, or is this high-end liquors?
We would, we are similar in nature to BevMo, but we would, my corporate folks would tell you that we're Nordstrom and they're JCPenney's. We carry the largest selection of
Well, I
wine.
know you think you want, but from our point of view, we just want to know, what kind of business are you?
I had to state the official company position. I'm sorry.
BevMo, Moorish, in sort of, but better. Yes, okay, I'll accept that. My concern is the tasting. We've got a high crime neighborhood here. Tasting, I don't know, in the folly of my youth, I used to attend tastings, and you drive to the store, you taste some beverages, and then you maybe taste some more over here or there, and then you get in your car and you drive home. That concerns me. And why is that such a crucial part of your business? If it's a sort of discount liquor place, then people come in and they pretty much know what they're going to get. They buy it, they read the little designations and the scores on the different labels of the wine, and they look it up on their little phones to find out if that's the true evaluation. And then, so why do they need to taste it?
The tasting element of the store is kind of multifold. First of all, I want to kind of talk a little bit about the Wine Education Center. In the actual building, we actually have a cordoned off, and it's a classroom,
Right.
actually. And we have classes that you have to sign up for online. They actually are very, very popular. They typically sell out a month or so in advance. And at that wine education class, we might bring in an expert of the Napa wine region, or somebody that would be talking about wines from Germany or wines from South America. And it's actually conducted in more of an educational teaching type of format, rather than it is to talk about, to offer a bunch of samples. I mean, yes, there are tastings that go on. These happen about once a month to possibly twice a month. They happen typically only on Thursday evenings. They're finished by by no later than 9 p.m. on the nights that we have those. They are a limited group of people that are allowed to sign up for these tastings. The other tastings that do occur, they occur in the store. They typically happen only on, like, say, Saturday afternoons or Sunday afternoons. They are actually more frequently giving people an opportunity to taste things such as craft brews. The craft brew industry has exploded. You probably have some craft breweries here in Daly City. Those folks are certainly looking for outlets to sell their merchandise. The other big national grocery store chains have relationships that oftentimes don't allow them to carry some of your local craft brews. So it's an opportunity for those vendors to come in and just simply sample those. There's strict guidelines with how much alcohol can be poured and how much can be done in a session. Those tasting situations are done on the store floor. We put out like those barricades, like the theater barricades, and we put those out, and then only a certain number of people can come in. We're certainly not intending to make this any type of atmosphere in which you're going to stay for a while. You're limited to how many you can do. We don't want you to stay. We want you to shop. And again, it's more of an opportunity to taste some of the higher priced beverages, such as the craft beers or some of the fine wines. And it's not intended to have you stop by and
So it's not like the tasting room at the Rainier Brewery in Tacoma.
No. No, it is not. It's not designed
Y'all
to.
come on down and
Correct. It's
drink a
not
few.
designed at all to have anybody stay. If you're in the store shopping on a Saturday afternoon, and we've maybe partnered up with one of your local craft breweries here, it's an opportunity for them to give some samples away. We obviously don't want to give away. We don't charge for the samples, so we don't operate in that kind of manner. And again, it's as if you were kind of going to Costco or Sam's Club and I love going there Saturdays and eating a lot of food, but that's the type of atmosphere it is. And we only have it in 2 locations, and they're very limited.
So the tasting that would be out on the floor would be
Yes.
how many people tasting and how many people watching and pouring?
There's typically
What's the
2 people.
ratio there?
There's typically 2 people that are conducting the actual tasting, 4 to 6 people. We literally
Okay.
cordon off a very, very small area that would be no larger than here to the dais area there, and then you can come in there and then you can sample. So it's easy for us to monitor. It happens right in the middle of the store, and then the wine education is a slightly different activity.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the class. In fact, I may sign up for one myself. But it's more the floor thing. And if you've got that ratio of people, then it's pretty easy to watch what's going on. And I'm assuming, being a liquor store, that you have trained staff if people behave inappropriately or come in already drunk and wanting to buy something to enhance their drunkenness.
Very, very much so. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we're operating 160 stores across the country right now.
Yeah.
We obviously take it very, very seriously. We want to create a really neat shopping experience, for our customers. Right. And the last thing we want to do is have any kind of nuisance behavior going on in the store, because it detracts from what our core business is. Somebody in there shopping for, in some cases, very, very expensive bottles of wine, obviously are expecting a certain atmosphere and certainly want to feel comfortable there. The other thing that I do want to note is that Total Wine & More, we are definitely a regional draw. There will definitely be people coming in from San Mateo and some other neighboring cities and spending their taxpayer dollars here in your community. We operate a store in Mountain View, California right now, which I think is about 25 miles south of here. East Bay, we have Fremont. We do have a store going in San Jose at the Almaden Ranch Shopping Center where the Bass Pro Shops is. And then we have another one on the East Bay in, I want to say it's Pleasanton or Pleasant Hill, one of those 2 cities there. And again, we operate currently 20 stores in California. We've been scouting very, very diligently sites. This opportunity came available. This certainly seems like the type of demographic, the location. It's located in a very heavy commercial area. We're not nearby any type of residence, and we certainly go through great lengths to make sure that we're not a nuisance to the public, but a really great specialty retailer that you guys will be proud of, and provide a really unique type of retailing opportunity.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the dais? Sir?
I'm satisfied.
I like Costco, and I like the food. Will you be having food like cheese and?
Yes, we actually do. We also do sell some other types
crackers
of
and
things. Like
cheese,
yes,
yeah.
we do provide those.
All right, all right. Thank you. I have no further questions of the applicant. Do I have a motion from anyone?
I'll make the motion.
And what's that, sir?
I'll make the motion to approve, or let me get the language.
Okay.
To find, number 2.
Sir, I need you to stay up so you can bask in this glory of this. What I'm hearing is, Mr. Buenaventura, that you would like to make a motion to issue the public convenience and necessity permit
Yes.
for Total Wine & More.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Gingona?
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye. Good luck, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
nice
much.
day.
All right.
Thank you.
Item number 15, major subdivision sub-3-17-12681, modification to approve the 71 lot subdivision map at number 1 Martin Street. And looks like we have findings and mitigated negative declarations. And item C, Mr. Lunkhausen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. does not include the mitigated negative
Oh, okay.
declaration. Just for clarification, that's already been adopted. This is an application by the Toll Brothers to essentially make a amendment to the subdivision map that the City Council has approved on the Robertson Intermediate site approximately last April. The Toll Brothers have acquired that site from the Bayshore Elementary School District and are in the process of processing a map amendment through the city, and the City Council approval of that new map is required. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Robertson Intermediate School site, it's at the end of Martin Street, located approximately here. Just for some context, this is the Linda Vista subdivision located to the south and east. The Midway Village is located here to the north, and the Bayshore neighborhood located to the west. The Robertson Intermediate School itself is closed, of course, consolidating school operations in a centralized new K-8 school elsewhere in the Bayshore neighborhood. So in April 2016, the City Council approved a courtyard clustered subdivision, is what we call this. The concept here was that clusters of homes would be served by these individual alleyways, and that was essentially the lotting pattern that was approved at that time. The Toll Brothers, upon acquiring the site, decided that it needed to do some modifications, and therefore proposed a re-subdivision of the 7-acre parcel to allow for the same number of lots that were approved in that April 2016 approval. So 71 lots. The number of lots is not changing. The extension of Martin Street would also continue to be the same as was approved in April 2016. However, a looped street configuration would be proposed, and we'll show a map of that in the subsequent slides. The existing map provides 162 parking spaces. This map actually provides 284, so it's a substantial increase in off-street parking under this proposal. So this is the proposed tentative map. I believe we have a blow-up of this in the subsequent slide showing the loop street configuration. So no longer in this area are the courtyard clusters proposed, but the loop street configuration, more of a traditional sort of subdivision design, if you will. The courtyards would continue to occur in this area here, the north side of the site, and again, Martin Street would continue to be extended, just as the current map, currently approved map indicates, and connect to Linda Vista Drive. So nothing in terms of the major improvement of connecting Martin Street through to Linda Vista Drive is changing, just the arrangement of the lots. Again, this slide shows an overview of the parking. There are 307 total parking spaces. Each of the detached home provides a 2-car garage and 2-car driveway. So that was not the case in the previous map. So in terms of providing off-street parking, this proposal is much better. There are 23 on-street parking spaces in the Martin Street extension that are also proposed. So for visitors who can't occupy the driveways of the homes. Conditions of map approval are very similar to those that are applicable to the existing map. I won't go through each one of them, but they relate to providing benches in the stormwater catchment area to the east. That's an improvement that would occur. Decorative wall, retaining walls, things like this. Pedestrian-oriented streetlights. So the mitigated negative declaration that was adopted in April 2016 is still applicable on this site, so there's no need for the City Council to recertify that or anything. There are no new impacts. The number of lots proposed is the same as on the existing map. The Planning Commission recommends the City Council adopt the findings outlined in the staff report and approve the major subdivision. If there's any questions, the applicant Toll Brother representatives are here and can answer any of those that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Longhausen. Any comments from the council, concerns, questions? Ms. Christensen.
I am a big proponent of the 2-car driveway because that's actually how people live their lives. We don't know what they put in their garages, but it is not usually their cars. So having that additional parking that people really use is a big advantage. Yeah, I'm very pleased to see that change.
Along those same lines, Mr. Lunkhausen, so I assume that these residences are greater, bless you, Mike, bless you, greater than 1,500 square feet?
They are, and
Right.
a point of clarification,
Right.
the actual homes would come back to the design review committee for
Sure.
consideration. So the city council tonight is actually not approving the exact homes themselves, but the subdivision map, yes. But yes, they are over that square feet.
Because I know we have an ordinance, if it's 1,500 or greater, it should have at least 2 for the driveway. Plus,
That's true. This is planned development zoning, so
Okay.
the parking that would be required is what was approved in April 2016.
all right, any other concerns?
No,
Vice Mayor?
no concerns.
Thank you so much. All right, so on the item number 15, I would request a motion to accept the findings as outlined in the staff report.
So moved.
First,
Second.
we have first and a second.
Can we do all three of them at once? You wanna
Okay.
do that?
Sure.
Sure, so we have item A, which is the findings. Mitigated negative declarations, that has not changed. Is that right, Mr. Lunkhausen, as you made mention?
That's true.
And C, sub-3-17-12681. And we'll do all three. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Christensen? Mr. Gingona?
Yes.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Lunkhausen, and if you would kindly keep your seat, please, for item number 16. Next one is Plan Development, PD-4-17-12721, Preliminary Plan Review of Mixed-Use Development at 3301 Juniper Sierra Boulevard, previously Sierra Bowl.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. This is a request by City Ventures to obtain preliminary plan review from the City Council. This item also went to the Planning Commission. The preliminary plan is a precursor to the precise plan, at which time the actual approvals occur, and we'll explain the whole process for you. The site is located at 3301 Juniper Sierra Boulevard. This is the Sierra Bowl site. The project details 75 units of retail and mixed-use office and commercial. So again, to orient the council and members of the public, this is Juniper Sierra Boulevard here, D Street. The subject site is situated at the northeast corner and is constituted essentially as two triangles of site. In the middle of these two triangles, there is an SFPUC not right of way, but actually owned by the SFPUC, and so is not part of the site. And so the site continues at the southwest corner of Hill and B Street. So these two triangles are what constitute the site. The Colma BART station would be off the screen to the right. This is a photograph of the subject site looking north toward the Sierra Bowl site. What is in front of us here in the picture is actually part of the property. The City Council at a future date will be determining or considering a vacation of this easement here. It appears as if it's a city street. It's actually part of the site, private property, and would become part of the parking area of the site. So again, this is just for some context. City Toyota exists in the background here. This site is currently occupied by City Toyota car storage, so this photo is a little outdated. There's currently cars. Yeah, cars that occupy the site now. So this is the Samtrans park and ride lot across D Street to the south. This is the SFPUC right-of-way property I had mentioned. And off to the left, this is part of the site where this home is. Colma BART station in the area, City Toyota to the north. So the proposal is to rezone to plan development, two non-contiguous sites, the two triangles. Together they're about 3.9 acres. And the applicant's proposing to construct 75 townhouses that are 3-story in height as well as 31,000 square feet of retail and office at the intersection of Uniprocera and D Street. Again, that would be 3-story construction. In addition, there would be about 3,600 square feet of shopkeeper commercial space that would be located immediately adjacent to D Street. Each of the residential units would provide 2 parking spaces, as well as the parking field located on the west side of the site would provide 110 parking spaces for retail office users as well as guest parking. So the process for how a plan development zone is created is essentially a sketch plan, which is combined with tonight's hearing into the preliminary plan consideration. The Planning Commission considered this on June 6th. And the City Council is doing the same tonight. So tonight is an opportunity for the City Council to give preliminary input into the land use concepts that are proposed. The City Council is not approving the project tonight. The project is currently, the applicant and city are working together to develop a traffic study, for example, evaluating the CEQA impacts of this project. So there's still more work to be done in that area, and we're going to go over some of the issue areas that the city staff has discussed with the applicant in considering this land use proposal. So tonight's preliminary input. Precise plan would come back sometime later in 2017, most likely, or early 2018, for final approval and CEQA consideration. So this is the site plan to orient everybody. This is D Street. This is Uniprocera, and the retail office building that I spoke of is located here. The townhomes are situated here, south of the SFPUC right-of-way, and then north of the SFPUC right-of-way, another series of townhomes at the southwest intersection of B and Hill Streets. The parking field, that is the guest parking, retail office, shared parking arrangement is located here. Internal driveways would connect the units, of course, to the city street.
Road is now.
That's right. Right here is where the road is now. This map shows the site area allocations. There's not too much to discuss on this. It just shows how much of the site is devoted to each land use. This is the architectural concept. Again, contemporary architectural design. Project architects developed the buildings' use of color to provide visual articulation in the buildings, as well as the buildings do have the offset from wall plane. The offset in wall planes also provides additional visual interest. Further architectural refinement would occur in the coming months, and when the item comes back to the Planning Commission and City Council for final approval, we could probably expect something similar to this, but with possibly a little more refinement. The shop, yes.
So the shops are on the bottom?
Yes, the shopkeeper space.
And then the
yes.
townhouses are above.
Mm-hmm. Right, so that's only on the D Street frontage, just to be clear. I mean, all of the units don't have the shopkeeper space, just on the D Street frontage. And the applicants provided this slide to show what the shopkeeper space might look like at the ground level. It's visually different from the residential above. And as a matter of fact, the shopkeeper space has its own condominium map. And so it's actually a separate space from the residential unit in terms of an ownership pattern as well. So these are different concepts that show how that might work. So as part of the initial application, the city staff required that the applicant prepare a fiscal impact and feasibility analysis. As outlined in your staff report, one of the concerns expressed by the Planning Commission was that the project may not be actually that dense enough. It was also somewhat of a staff concern. We wanted to make sure that the project, because it's requesting a rezoning from a non-residential use, which is strictly office, which is allowed. We wanted to make sure that either an office product or a more dense residential product wasn't actually a more viable land use here. We wanted to make sure that the opportunity that this site presents, being close to BART, was fully utilized, and that was the reason for the fiscal impact and feasibility analysis. So that the findings of that analysis, the analysis itself, were included as an attachment to the staff report. And essentially, what the feasibility analysis determined is that a higher density for sale development was not feasible at this site. That's not including apartment development, so that's just a more dense sort of condominium development. The report preparer thought that was an unproven sort of product in this housing market, that in Daly City, that is, and found that the proposed project is feasible. So in terms of the density that's proposed, that was the finding there. The second important finding was that the project, because it is a for sale condominium development, would result in a net fiscal surplus generated that would be higher than the fiscal impacts under the existing specific plan, which allows, again, only allows an office building. So for this project to advance, to be constructed, we would actually have to change the specific plan designation. And this finding basically concluded, the finding of this analysis concluded that this project would generate more revenues than the two-story office building that was assumed to be about 69,000 square feet. So the details of that are outlined again in the attached study to your staff report. Some of the ongoing discussion topics that the city staff is having with the developer, and the city council, of course, in its deliberations can add anything it feels to this list, is the provision of sidewalk and landscaping along the Juniper Serra project frontage. There was not any sidewalk that was initially proposed. When we took a look at the sidewalk construction that had happened along in the town of Colma leading up into Daly City, some of the sidewalk construction that was proposed as part of the initial Samtrans development site, where separated sidewalk was in fact proposed, we thought it would be important that a sidewalk be proposed as part of this project. The provision of usable open space is something that we asked the applicant to take a look at. Mitigation of the vehicular conflicts in D Street between BART motorists leaving the site and existing traffic in Juniper Serra, as well as a better means of egress from D Street. And we'll go over some of those in a subsequent slides. And this shows the project frontage at D Street, where the applicants proposed enhanced landscaping, sort of as instead of having the separated sidewalk, but we do feel that actually having, not a separated sidewalk, but just having a sidewalk there is very important. A lot of our residents walk from the adjacent neighborhoods on the west side of the freeway to the BART station, and we feel that they're going to be most comfortable using city sidewalks to arrive at the BART station instead of walking through the project. So this is the issue with the D Street ingress. Part of the challenge with this site is that the retail immediately at that northeast corner is getting people that are entering possibly from other parts of the community or from Interstate 280 onto the retail site, right? So the residents who live there will know how to get to their unit, of course, after the first or second time they drive there, but people who are arriving at the retail site may not know that. So the applicant and the city staff are discussing ways to allow people to get onto the site more easily. Right now at D and Hill Street, U-turns are not allowed. And that's because of I would imagine because of the geometric of the street. So the city staff and the applicant are discussing ways possibly of somehow allowing people to turn into the site from eastbound D Street, which would allow a greater ease of access into the retail or office development there. So that's one of our more major issues. The other is the potential for vehicular conflict at D and the Juniper Serra intersection. Included as an attachment to your staff report was a letter from the town of Colma, which brings this up, and the city staff was also aware of an issue where motorists leaving the site and trying to get onto the freeway ramp onto southbound 280 or Highway 1 southbound would potentially block the right-hand turn lane from westbound D Street onto northbound Juniper Serra. So that's an issue that we're also dealing with. There may be the potential for adding cone system here or something. The problem is that people tend to drive over them. So we're trying to figure out how to sort of deal with that potential for vehicular conflict. Again, resolution of these would occur prior to precise plan stage. The issues brought up by the Planning Commission are outlined in the staff report. They include, again, some of the same things that we brought up here. The Planning Commission did recommend the City Council approve the preliminary plan. The applicant, Samantha Hauser from City Ventures, is with us tonight, as is Richard Chu from the city engineer, and city staff. Planning Division is also available to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Longhausen. Do we have any comments from council? Yes, Vice Mayor.
I do have some comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of my concerns is with just the location of it. It is really by transit. And I know that it was talked about that the density was analyzed, but I feel like that it's such an integral location where you could provide more units onto that site. I mean, it's just adjacent to Colma BART station. You have the Samtrans, and so if we're talking about a transit-oriented development, I mean, it said that it's not feasible for maybe rental units that have more density, but have we really had an analysis towards that? I'd like to know if we have, because I know the site is unique, but also, I mean, the proximity to transit is huge. And so there's not a lot of sites in Daly City that have that. And so for me, I can see this project also fit somewhere else, but for me, I want to know that we're using the maximum amount of, because of the location, because especially around transit. And that's something I see that's important.
Mm-hmm. Understand.
Yeah.
And right, and so it is imperative that you understand that the analysis did evaluate the constructability, the feasibility, if you will, of condominium development. I don't know if there's an opportunity to go and take a look at whether apartments were any more feasible in that regard. But that's a completely different product than, of course, what's being proposed here, and that may affect the fiscal analysis side of things. One of the nice things about condominiums is that there is, initial sale price. There's turnover of the units over the years, which does tend to affect the, the bottom line in terms of property tax collection. So, yeah, they're sort of different animals in that regard, but it is a comment that we'll take into consideration, of course.
Okay, thank you. And then also another question I have is, being, that this project is close to transit. I know we're in the initial stages. I don't know if there's anything around trying to promote transit. I mean, I think that we're looking at a location that is already utilized with vehicular traffic, but the BART, and so has there been any initiation or talks around how to ensure that, the potential residents utilize the transit and not add, I mean, they're right close to BART. I mean, imagining that they're going to use their cars, I mean, what is the incentives here? Has any incentives been brought about?
Right, that's sort of a tough one too. How do you compel people to use BART? A lot of times, just the proximity to the BART station, we would imagine would attract a home buyer who would be more inclined to use BART. The number of parking spaces, of course, instead of, for example, the map we just looked at in the previous item. The number of parking spaces here is 2 per, so so just by the amount of parking provided, you would think there's somewhat of a disincentive or incentive to maximize transit usage, and maybe minimize auto usage. But that's sort of a hard thing to compel the residents to use transit. But.
And then I noticed the storefronts on there, which is, I think, the one piece about it is I do like how it's a mixed-use development, so that there is residential and then also bringing forth some retail. I think just generally around making sure that the storefronts are visible, accessible, is really important. And I think, yeah, those are some of my initial comments. I do feel that, you know, if there was any more analysis, it's such a key area around ensuring that we're in a housing crisis right now. And so making sure we have more units is important.
Thank you.
Any other Ms. Christensen?
I have a couple things. Both in the meeting with the potential developer of this site and in staff reports, I just want to make sure I got this right, that the income the city would be getting from this project is greater than the additional cost to serve the new residents. Because every time you put a new person in Daly City, that's more library fees, more park fees, I mean, that we have to spend, fire, police, tree maintenance, all that kind of stuff, costs. And every time we add another person, so that's true. This is a.
Yes, generally speaking, that's true.
We're
Based
going to
on
be
the.
getting more from these new residents than we are spending on them.
So the fiscal analysis makes assumptions about how much property tax would be collected and how much of that would be distributed to the city, how much new residents would spend at Daly City area retailers, things like this. And when those things are factored into the incomes of the people who would buy these units, then the answer does come out to be yes.
Okay, and another issue of concern to me was the LEED certification level on these buildings, and what are the environmental plans for rainwater and drought-tolerant plants? We heard some of that, but I'm thinking members of the public would like to hear that as well.
Okay. We're going to allow the applicant to answer that best. They're most familiar with their product.
Well, before we call up the applicant, I have some questions, and hopefully the applicant could take notes of all of our questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. First of all, I want to make a comment that I'm in favor of this development. And the feasibility study that has already been done showed that basically the developer would be losing money if they tried to increase the density. I read, looks like 71 million to do the project, where they may end up with only 80 million at a cost of $845,000 per unit. To increase the density, it would probably put an extra a bit more on the developer. Secondly, what I didn't see, and that was recommended by one of the planning commissioners, is the creation of some sort of community room on site. For instance, South City Lights. If you're a resident there, they have a community room, and you know you can have functions there. And also, I don't see much green in the area of, like, say, open space. Folks may have pets, they want to walk their dogs, where they're going to walk them on the sidewalk, and, you know, just open space for kids and et cetera. So that's a concern that I have. But other than that, I am in favor of the use and of the project and, you know, moving forward with this. But of course, I would like the rest of my colleagues to hear from the applicant, as well as I would like to hear from the applicant. So unless there's anything further from any council member, I'd like to bring up the applicant at this time. Okay, please, Mr. Lonkhausen, you want to introduce your applicant?
Yeah.
Or they can introduce themselves.
Samantha Hauser from City Ventures.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you very much for having us. We're really excited at the prospect of becoming part of Daly City first and foremost. And I also want to thank staff, because this is a really challenging site, 2 non-contiguous triangles. And so staff really helped guide us to having the key corner being commercial and having the mixed use along D Street that that you were talking about. And can we look at that slide with the prior projects? So while that's being brought up, one of the questions was, Vice Mayor, trying to promote transit and how we can compel transit use. One of the things that we really work hard to do, and it'll show up more in the traffic study, is find current kind of modern ways to encourage ridership. So doing things like not providing too much guest parking on site, but allowing for a shared parking with the commercial. That's something that's kind of proven to direct people. We're also doing sidewalks that are really enhanced, to lead over to BART. So by adding more walkways and enriching the public right-of-way walkways, we're really hoping to encourage that. In addition, activating D Street with commercial and retail, we're hoping people walk by the coffee shop on their way to the BART station in the morning. So we're looking at it from a planning, standpoint, but also from a traffic standpoint. The image on the bottom right, so some of these are projects that are under construction and that we've built. The bottom right is actually what the shopkeeper units on this project look like. So just to kind of give you a sense of what the size and scale is, that's kind of what we're talking about. And then to address the question of green, City Ventures is a sustainable developer. So part of what we do is we locate next to transit, almost all of our sites. You may have seen the South City BART station project that's being built right now. That's our project. But in addition to doing that, we do things like provide low flow water fixtures, low impact landscaping, high energy efficient appliances. We design with less lumber so that we're being acknowledging that the climate is kind of shifting. And then we pre-wire all of our garages for electric car charging. But I think the thing that sets us apart is that unlike other developers, we do solar all electric, where we actually provide the solar panels as a standard. It's not just pre-wired, there's no gas to the site. So this is really a sustainable concept, and that's kind of our self-imposed green key. Instead of spending the money on LEED certification, we put it into the project, and then the benefits go to the homeowners. So this is kind of a really great opportunity to provide ownership housing next to BART, and we're really excited about it. I want to make sure I answer everyone's questions.
You're doing fine.
So,
Thank you. That's great.
Mr. Mayor, one of the things that staff is looking at with us is providing more green space. We currently have a really nice amount of private open space that each resident gets a patio or a really large deck where they're above the shopkeeper units. We currently have about 13,000 square feet of common open space. We're looking at amenities right now, like active amenities, different types of public art. But what we're trying to do is really increase that, and that's something that we're working closely with staff on to try and get more of the amenities that you're looking for. And as far as a community room on site, that's something that we can definitely look into as we move forward and progress. So I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Vice Mayor.
So with the mayor asking about a community room, we said you had about 13,000 square feet of potential public open space. Do you think there's a way to put not even just a room, but kind of a community hall, like larger than a room? I think that there's not necessarily we need more spaces, community spaces, and as the mayor mentioned, but not necessarily just a room, but a larger hall.
It's definitely something that we can look at as we move forward. One of the benefits to doing commercial on site is that there is flexibility within that. So maybe we benchmark some space, maybe we look at increasing the amount of open space and doing something that has equal community benefit, but it's something that we can really study as we move the project forward.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of residents say that that there needs to be some more kind of areas where they can hold different there's venues, but with your design, I'm sure that residents would appreciate another community kind of hall.
Sure.
The easement that goes through, we can't build on it at all? Or, I mean, I have to commend you for what you've done so far. And I know it's very, very difficult, especially with that easement. And if we look at it, it looks like once you build, it's really not to scale. It just seems like it's going to be so big. So I'm trusting you'll find something to do to make it look attractive, and I can't wait to see it.
Well, I really appreciate that.
I know
the right-of-way that's owned by
Right.
Hetch Hetchy, they're in a construction project currently, so we can't immediately use it, but we definitely want to approach them, and we will find some way to make whatever it is the residents are looking at very aesthetically pleasing.
All right.
Sorry,
Vice
Mr. Mayor. I have one last question around on your previous projects? How have you incorporated, the use of bicycles? What has been your track record around that, since it's right by transit?
Yes, that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So one of the things that we do is every home comes with a bicycle parking space that's actually in the home on the ground floor. And then we provide a lot of additional bike parking around the site, which is something we'll do here. We're just building a signature project in San Jose, and their requirement was like 60 bike parking spaces, and we provided 150. So we're very committed to.
And how about around the retail?
Definitely. That's we want to make sure that bikeability and walkability happens on both different use types.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I do have a card on this matter, so if you can just stand by for a moment. I'd like to open it up to a public hearing at this time, unless we have any other further questions from the council. Okay, this is now the open public hearing. I do have one card, Ms. Gabriella Maxman.
Good evening, everyone. I just have one thing to point out that I don't know if it was discussed as part of the financial study or the feasibility study about City Toyota, and the fact that they have a pretty large concern about where they would park all of those cars, and there's actually been talk that if they can't use that space, that they would leave. I have to say, I love this. This is beautiful. I'm not against it in any sort of way. But it's something that I think we all should think about and consider, since they are a large employer and do bring in a lot of revenue to the city, how we would then work with them to figure out where they would park all those cars, and maybe that's what point 17 is about, and kind of putting those two people together. I know that City Toyota is not interested in that space of the Geneva Drive-In, or at least I've heard that they weren't interested in it, but maybe when push comes to shove, they may be. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out because I think it's something to think about, and that since they're currently using that space, that they should be involved in some sort of conversation, so it's not a surprise, and that they don't get pissed off and then move somewhere like Colma, which will take them very gladly. So anyway, just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, just to provide some clarification on that particular issue, I have been in contact directly with Mr. Moeller at City Toyota, and depending upon the outcome of the council's decision, I told him that I would follow up with him and that we would certainly work with him about the relocation of the vehicles currently situated at this location. So we very much are aware of the issue and have had that conversation, and I think he feels confident that we'll work with him.
Thank you, Ms. Martell. I'd like to also make a comment. Ms. Maxman, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Item number 6 on the consent agenda dealt with the vacation of an easement to construct a public highway on a portion of B Street, a street that current City Toyota is using now to store their vehicles. We have approved because the owner had previously allowed us to utilize that street, and we have since let City Toyota use that. Item number 17 is forthcoming, and believe me, I am definitely sensitive to the needs of Daly City Toyota because of the revenue that they bring into the city. I'm a firm believer that we have to help each other, but at the same time, we have to weigh that balance between housing and business and hopefully come to a compromise. So thank you, Ms. Martell, for bringing that up, and Ms. Maxman for making that point clear. All right, I request at this time to close the public hearing on item number 16.
So moved.
First and the second? Or second to close the public hearing?
Second.
Second, thank you so much. On the resolution, a preliminary plan review of mixed use on development at 3301 Juniper Sierra Boulevard, previously Sierra Bowl. Roll call, please.
Don't we need a motion?
Well, that is the motion to approve the, okay, to approve plan development PD-4-17-12721 preliminary plan review of mixed-use development at 3301 Juniper Sierra Boulevard, previously Sierra Bowl.
Second.
So moved.
Okay, so go ahead. She moved. Go ahead.
Okay, moved, and I need a second.
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Gingona?
Yes.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye. Thank you so much. Moving ahead to item number 17. This is for use permit UPR-5-17-12820. Temporary new auto storage on vacant drive in theater site at 601 Carter Street. And Mr. Lunghausen.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. This is a request by SciWest Properties to operate a new vehicle storage again at the Geneva Drive-In site located at 607 Carter Street. The City Council will probably recall this is an application that was considered in a different form a little while back, a couple of months ago, and this application is a new application for a slightly modified proposal, and we'll go through what that is. So again, the site is the old Geneva Drive-In site. It's located here. Here's Carter Street. The Saddleback residential townhome project is situated across the street here. The site is accessed via an easement over city property located here. The Cow Palace would be off the screen to the right. Some photographs of the site entrance. Here's the city property. The access is provided over. One of the conditions of approval of this project, should it be approved, is that the old drive-in movie theater sign would be removed and some minimal landscape improvements would occur also at the site entrance to try and beautify this location, which is, of course, as you can see, is characterized by a chain link fence presently. These slides show some site context. Again, Saddleback, located directly across the street to the west. Cow Palace parking lot situated to the north. This is Cow Palace in the background and their parking lot in the foreground. So the proposal is the temporary use of a 5.2 acre site for new vehicle storage. So previously, the City Council had considered and did not ultimately approve the use of a 5.04 acre site for the same essential use. This proposal is slightly different in that the 0.78 acre portion of it would be devoted solely to the storage of vehicles exclusively for local, meaning Daly City auto dealerships. If those, and the 0.7 acre portion would only be required if the applicant could not use, did not need to use the balance of the site. So.
Okay, could you just say that again?
Yeah, that's kind of a tricky one. Yeah.
You kind of lost me mid-sentence there.
Yeah. So the applicants essentially added a 0.78 acre portion of the site. So he grew the site by 0.78 acres. He would only need to use and improve that area for use by local auto dealerships if they could not be accommodated on the balance of the 5.2 acres. Does that make any sense?
Oh, okay, so they would make available
any portion of
space in their 5.2 acres, but if that all filled up and Daly City still needed more space, they'd go ahead and develop the
That's right, the 0.78 acres, right.
Okay,
so just as a point of
the other way
clarification.
around. It's 5.04 acres plus 0.78 for a total of 5.2 if it's needed by.
Yeah,
Thank
gotcha.
you. All right. Not 5.2 plus 0.7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So we wanted to clarify
this got
that.
me all
We tried to. So the applicant had in its previous application had proposed an initial term of 5 years, and now is proposing an initial term of 3 years with the ability to extend the permit for 2 successive one-year time periods. So the request is slightly reduced to the 3 years. Also, in the previous consideration, the City Council expressed concern that by allowing the vehicle storage to occur, that it would in some way cause a hindrance to the ultimate development of this property as a retail use that's so needed in the Bayshore neighborhood.
Yes.
And so to address that, the applicant and the City Attorney's Office have developed a memorandum of understanding for the council consideration, and that would be an MOU that would be entered into between the city's housing finance agency, which is essentially you, and the applicant. And the MOU is included in the staff report as an attachment for your consideration. So those are essentially the changes that have occurred in the proposal since the last consideration of this item. So this is the site plan, kind of hard to read, but the 5.78 acre area is located essentially here. And they've added that there in the site plan. This is just a detail of the driveway. There have been some minor clarifications in the conditions of approval that have occurred. The proposal is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. The conditions of approval, again, relate to the number of cars that can be stored. There have been a bump in the number from 600 to 720 to accommodate the additional area that was included in the site plan. The use permit would be valid for 3 years. And again, we've already gone over the third bullet about this 0.78 acre portion would be used exclusively for local car dealerships. These conditions of approval are essentially the same as was previously proposed. Vehicle transport trailers could only transport vehicles to the site, as well as dealership employees could only drive vehicles from the site between the hours of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. The existing asphalt or existing road would be improved so as to minimize dust. Some of these are sort of really detailed, but they're essentially the same as the conditions of approval that were previously discussed. Landscaping at the Carter Street entrance, removal of that old drive-in theater sign. The Planning Commission did review the proposal and recommended that the City Council adopt the findings from the environmental assessment and approve the use permit subject to the conditions of approval identified in the staff report. Representatives from SciWest are here to answer any questions, as is the city staff available to answer any questions council members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Longhausen. Any comments from council?
Yes,
Ms.
I do.
Christensen.
So the substantial changes in this are, they wanted 5 years, the city wanted 2 years, so it looks like there's a good compromise at 3. And the enhancement of allowing Daly City dealerships to park there, which encourages more Daly City car sales and more sales tax for us, seems to be there. And I forgot how many cars altogether, the 720 with the new possible proposal.
Right.
Okay, great. So it sounds like movement has been made.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question. I understand that if there needs to be excess use for Daly City car dealerships, that's why there's that extra amount that was added. But is there a priority for our Daly City car dealerships, not just if there's excess? I want to know if in the stipulations it says that they're prioritized.
Okay, great. That's a question for the applicant. Any additional?
I have some questions.
Okay.
So the only thing that I really see that has changed is the MOU regarding this plan. And let me just say, I appreciate the progress. I think that is progress when you are actively trying to do something to change the direction of what it was before. The problem I have, and I'm expressing it to all of you because I'm going to need some help getting to yes on this one. And I see the MOU as really not terribly significant and strong, because my understanding of an MOU, and Madam City Attorney, please correct me, is it is not a contract, it is not a binding agreement. There is no offer or acceptance or consideration. This is basically saying, am I right so far?
Yes.
Okay.
I can add to it.
Okay. So it's basically them coming in and saying that we agree that we are going to try to help develop the area. But there is nothing that binds them to that agreement. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Again, okay, again, yes. So legally, yeah, so they can make the promises they want, and they utilize the place. And so 3 years from today, we could still be in the same situation where there is not even a whisper of a development, because there is no absolute commitment to getting a project done. So I'm just going to throw out my thoughts, and I'm hoping we can have an active discussion on it, because I really need some help in trying to move this forward. So I understand that the agreement that is being put forward is a 3-year term with an option after every year for 2 years to extend it. My question is, why can't we just simply do maybe a 1-year term with that same kind of option to keep it going, so that we have more of a handle and a control over getting something done in the Bay Shore? And let me also finish. So the Bay Shore community has, I think, suffered for the last 15 to 17 years of not having any development in that particular area. Again, as I said, there hasn't even been a whisper of something going on. They have been dumped upon, in my opinion, everything from no development to, shifting airplane noise over that area. And I think we need to be proactive in trying to force some change along the way. I'm a little concerned about what this talk about revenue for the city. My understanding is that we're not getting any sales tax from the sale of any of the vehicles that are being utilized, being parked there. My understanding is that it's only at the point of sale that we get any revenue from, obviously there's no point of sale going on at the parking lot. And then the other thing that troubled me was I had watched the council meeting, the planning commission meeting on this very issue. And it looked to me like Daly City Toyota wasn't even involved in the discussions to get them actively a part of the program to get their cars stored there. What I saw is a gentleman from City Toyota who appeared to be quite confused as to why he wasn't consulted into the process, and there was absolutely no commitment that his facility, his cars be stored at the location. And then as the meeting went on, there was some discussion about we will try to work with them, but I think this all should have been taken care of in advance, and planning should have been done to incorporate their business as the primary storage facility for City Toyota, because we're talking about our dealerships in Daly City. So I have a question about the revenue, the potential revenue that we are actually going to receive. I have a question about the involvement of Daly City Toyota, which I think should be more extensive. And I have a serious concern about the validity of this MOU and whether or not this is just talk and really not much behind it to enforce something positive and have some real change in the area. So again, I'm not wedded to a no. I'm trying to understand, and I hope my colleagues and the gentleman out here can help me get to yes, because I do recognize there has been progress made, and I think you should deserve some recognition for that. And let's see what we can do together.
I will at least attempt to. Go ahead.
Madam City Attorney, Mr. Buenaventura, thank you so much. You bring up many questions, but we'll begin with Madam City Attorney addressing the issue about the MOU.
Okay.
And we'll leave the rest of your questions for the applicant. Sounds good?
All right.
Sounds good. I'll
Thank you,
attempt to
Madam.
answer. So, in terms of how the MOU came about, it's twofold. So I'll address somewhat the policy direction as well as the legal component. So the MOU is drafted in a sense it does have some legal binding that it does is a condition before they can have any additional extensions from the 3-year use permit. What the MOU does is also memorialize the efforts of all the parties. So as you know, this entire project has already been master planned. Not completely memorialized, but has been approved by the city council, that it did involve the city, which is now the housing agency, SciWest, as well as the Cow Palace property, which is the state. And because it is difficult for the public entity to try to force a development, we looked at it as cooperation because we have the state to deal with. And what memorializes in the MOU is that SciWest has also, as part of the recitals, had 2 RFPs that engaged in exclusive right to negotiate with the state, and that fell through. So we are hoping that showing the cooperation of now the city involvement as well as SciWest, that we can have a bigger development out there. And when we look at the realities of when this will be developed, we engage in discussions now, and you're looking at a 3-year use permit. By the time we got approvals, when we and the city manager can elaborate on that, by the time we even went to the state to try to discuss any development out there, which has been going on for longer than my time here, which has been about 15 years, the state dropped it. So there wasn't much we can do. So we're now hoping to re-engage the discussions. That took over a year, if not 2 years. So the intent of the MOU is to somewhat recoup some financial benefits while we are going through this. So the incentive is that we don't have a 5-year use permit, is that the MOU establishes good faith negotiations, which has some benchmarks and some goals. They do have to meet with the city. They do have to make efforts to meet with the state, as well as the city meeting with the Cow Palace as well. So the MOU does have some teeth in granting the extension of a 3-year use permit, which we can engage in discussions at this point. The MOU also says, to the extent that a development agreement is reached between the 3 parties, including SciWest, then there is no extension. That's actually pretty clear in the MOU. If a development agreement is reached within the first year after the 3-year use permit, there is no extension. And that's an additional, so the use permit does not grant extensions. It just gives you the 3-year use. I will leave it to the applicant how long it'll take to somewhat development, but if you did a year, I can imagine you probably wouldn't have developments out there, or at least have it improved within that first year. So then your year would expire and you wouldn't have sufficient time to at least have something out there while we're trying to engage in discussions with the Cow Palace. So I tried to incorporate that. So while you're right that it's not binding, it is binding in a sense that if you don't do anything at all, if you don't engage in any discussions, you don't have an extension of this use permit.
But you still have the 3 years.
You have the 3 years, that's correct, but we look at it as, and this is beyond the scope of what the MOU says, but we really look at it as it takes some time to actually have a development out there. So while you are trying to engage in discussions, while they're trying to establish improvements in development for a temporary auto storage, they're at least having some money. And I'll leave it to SiWest what they've actually done out there and how much money they've spent to try to get a development. But there's definitely been quite a bit of effort. I know my time here in 15 years, and Pat's been here longer, we've engaged in many discussions with SiWest, and things fell through with the state. So that's why we tried to incorporate it in that MOU. As you'll read in the recitals, I tried to establish the efforts that's already been done to memorialize that, what can be done, and then have some teeth in showing some cooperation, or else you don't get an extension of your use permit.
Mr. Mayor, if I might add a little context to how we got here, because I think the council knows that the last time that this issue was considered, I actually spoke against the proposal at the time, because I was concerned, and I articulated the concern to you all about what impact this kind of use might have on potential development activity that I was envisioning raising again with the Cow Palace. Subsequently, I spoke with the representative from SiWest, Mr. Vieira, who's here today, and he can speak to that. And I actually was the one who initiated the discussion about a potential MOU, because I wanted to see that there was truly a commitment on the part of SiWest to work with us, if I could get the door opened at the Cow Palace again, to revisit the conversations that we've had multiple times over the last 13 years to try and get a deal going. But I indicated to Mr. Vieira that I needed to see some sort of commitment, a written commitment, even if only in the form of an MOU, not a formal contractual commitment, but in the form of a good faith commitment to work with the city. If we could, if the city were to approach the Cow Palace and try to initiate conversation with them again about developing their parcel along with the SiWest parcel and along with our housing parcel. And so as a result of those conversations, Mr. Vieira agreed. He went back and talked with his folks at SiWest, and they were agreeable to show some sort of good faith commitment to work together to try and make that happen. It's in SiWest's best interest as much as it is the city's best interest and the Cow Palace's best interest. Now, the more formidable challenge that we have in this city right now is not in getting SiWest to work with us, it's getting the Cow Palace to work with us. That's the more formidable challenge today, and that has been the most formidable challenge that we have faced in the last 13 years that I've been here working directly as city manager trying to get a deal with the Cow Palace. So this particular effort, I think, really does show a commitment that we want to work together and hopefully get the Cow Palace to be a partner with us to create a development out there and bring the kind of progress we want for the Bay Shore that we have always envisioned ever since we established the redevelopment project area there. All of the different efforts that we have tried to improve that neighborhood have failed, not because there wasn't a commitment on the part of the city or a commitment on the part of SiWest. They've ultimately failed because we couldn't get the Cow Palace Board of Directors to support finalizing a deal. And we're going to try again. We're trying a different approach in our conversation with them. I'm waiting to schedule a meeting with their general manager and the chair of the board and their development committee. We're trying to arrange some discussions. So we're going to try again. And now at least, if the council were to approve this action tonight, we've got a commitment with Cy West that they will come to the table with us and try to make something happen. And I'll leave it to Mr. Vieira to fill in the other details and respond to council questions about the level of commitment and some of the other things. And also, I do want to, one final comment. I did speak with Mr. Moeller before this item went to the Planning Commission. So he was very aware that we were carving out in the potential proposal this time around to ensure that if City Toyota wanted to move over to the Cow Palace once, you know, they have a requirement to remove their vehicles, that would be a viable option. And so Mr. Moeller knew that. Well, now we haven't worked out any details, but I did tell him that was the commitment that we extracted from Cy West, that they would make available to City Toyota or any other Daly City dealership to be able to use that site. And that's where the financial benefit would come, because our car dealers would be selling cars here. Now, the additional financial benefit for us from the entire project is that we have a business license, and so we get business license tax from that as well, from just having the auto storage activity there.
Thank you, Ms. Martell. I'd like to make a comment as well. You know, Ray, thank you for your thoughts and concerns as well. You definitely make a compelling argument. What I'd like to bring up is that, first of all, I'd like to thank Cy West Properties for coming back again. It shows that you really want to do something for our city, something. And Ms. Martell, thank you for that background history. If I'm just going to put this out there. If Cy West really wanted to help us, maybe you would convert that parking lot into some sort of retail. But I'm hoping maybe that will come in 3 years from now. But
We'd love to. They'd love to.
I do understand, and hopefully I'm hoping Mr. Buenaventura would understand, that we had this discussion before on why, especially why you wanted the longer term, and that's basically to recoup your costs based upon the conditions that our staff has provided to you, and the repaving of the parking lot, 4 inches of gravel, and I get that. And so I think we've come to a happy compromise within the 3-year aspect. City Toyota needs some space, and that's very, very important to us that I'm hearing at this present time. But I'm not going to forget that our Bay Shore folks need retail out there. And I need you to take that with you based upon what happens tonight on this. Now, I did go through some of your conditions. We have a project coming up within the next few years at Point Martin. We are putting a tremendous amount of traffic onto Carter Street. And I see the hours of operation. I'd really hate to see big truck deliveries on coming up Carter Street, because as far as I'm aware right now, Carter Street is the only way that these trucks bringing cars in can get onto the site. A planning commissioner made mention, well, they should not go through the Cow Palace lot. I mean, if we can all get along, why don't we just go through the Cow Palace and bring those trucks in off of Geneva? But I'm sure you can answer that. So I'm concerned about Carter Street and the folks who are going to work in the morning and having this big old truck come in, and there's only one lane both ways. So I'm proposing that no big trucks are to come on Carter Street, and you can address this, sir, when you come on up, between 6 and 9 a.m., Monday through Friday. That's condition number 5 that is listed here. And in the afternoons, most folks go home at 3, but I think we can be a little flexible, no trucks between 4 and 6 p.m. And that's all that I have at this time. So unless we, Mr. Gingona, you have something, and then we'll call up the applicant.
You know, I've lived with this issue for over 20 years, and I'll tell you, we'll be really specific. When I first got on the council, one of the committees I was put on was this Cow Palace committee. And, you know, rather than rehash the difficulties and the moving parts and the different interests of the players here, let me just say that in the years that we have worked on this issue, as Pat has said, there have been times when we've gotten close to a disposition of the property, and the Cow Palace has, for one reason or another, not gotten on board. I understand that in order for anything to happen in this area, that there's going to have to be some level of cooperation. I will say that the way I looked at this was, last time I voted against it, and the reason why I voted against it was because of the fact that I didn't see there being any real incentive for Sayufi to develop if they were to have a longer term. I like the fact that we have come back and we have drafted an MOU, and oftentimes they're not worth the paper they're written on, but they're better than nothing. And what they do is they give an impression to the Cow Palace that we have discussed something, that we have agreed on something, and that if we were to go forward, that we would go forward together and collaborate. That's a step forward. That's a position that we were not in before we considered this. I also look at what would happen if, and sometimes I look at these decisions and I go, all right, what happens if we just say no to this one? All right, so we say no to this one. We have a business owner that's in Daly City that wants to do something to enhance their business. And the reason why we wouldn't go forward would be because we didn't think that developer or that landowner was serious in another project. And I just don't think that, I know that they're all interrelated, but I also believe that our role as council members here isn't to hold decisions up, but to look for ways to accommodate our business community, and also to try to accomplish our own means, and that is to get a development in that area. I'm fully aware of what the people that live in the Bay Shore have gone through, what their needs are, and what we have done as a council to try to address those needs as the years have gone by. So if anything happens in this area, it is going to require the Cow Palace's cooperation. And if there are 3 moving parts and 2 of those moving parts have collaborated and have made some outward showing that they have aligned interests and that they're willing to go forward in a manner that is consistent with what our interests are, then I think that we should go forward with this, because at a certain point there's got to be a level of trust. There really does. And at a certain point we're going to come to a point where we're going to have to make decisions on what's going to happen in that area. And what we'll have, if we go forward today, is a piece of paper that kind of shows that we're aligned. Something that may not be legally actionable, but they'll be pretty hard pressed to go against their MOA and justify it under some theory of change conditions. So I think that staff has given this considerable thought. I don't. I understand the concerns of that we all want the same thing. I think what's different is that we just have a different approach as it relates to what it's going to take to make that development. So I am in favor of this. I would like to vote for this. I think that at a certain point you do have to trust this process. This is the closest I've seen in the 20 years that we have been aligned with SciWest. I think it's a great springboard to go forward with the Cow Palace. I think it's something that the Cow Palace would be hard pressed to go against a joint development proposal that incorporates the cooperation of SciWest and Daly City. So that's my 2 cents. I think that we have an opportunity here to say that tomorrow we're closer to a deal than we were yesterday. My thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Gingona. Any other further comments from council?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm looking at the hours. I think maybe changing that 8 o'clock AM to a 9 AM does make sense, because people really do leave for work all at the same time. They do not come home from work all at the same time. I don't know, I never worked less than a 12-hour day in my life. So, so if we could just change the morning one, I think that's more significant in terms of the number of people that would be on the road in that exact hour between 8 and 9. And that's only for the vehicle transport trailers. That's not for the individual cars being driven back. And
So,
I don't know. I'd like to hear from them if they'd be willing to make that change.
Okay, Councilmember Christensen and.
I'm on board.
Okay. At this time, I do have a card on this matter, but before I open up the public hearing, I'd like to bring up the applicant, please, and to address some of the questions that has been brought forth.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. My name is Robert Atkinson with SiWest Development, and thank you. I last appeared before you on March 27th, and would like to thank the city for the partnership. You know, we've spent a considerable amount of time and effort, like the city, in trying to move the rock that represents the Cow Palace, and I'd like to think that the partnership that we're creating might serve as a catalyst to help move that rock down the road. We're committed to spending money under the agreement, try and make that happen, and I know that Ms. Martell is working with our president, Mr. Vieira, to try to start to facilitate those meetings. I'd like to speak to City Toyota. The owner of City Toyota and our president, Mr. Vieira, had spoken prior to the Planning Commission meeting, Mr. Dave Muller and Mr. Karanko with City Toyota, who appeared at the Planning Commission meeting. I spoke with him afterwards. Unfortunately, he was not aware of the ownership's discussions with our company and their interest in our property. Mr. Vieira has spoken with City Toyota within the last week or so, and they were aware of the item on the agenda before us tonight, and they have other parcels, as you've mentioned in the earlier consent agenda. They have a lot of options in the city, so we've again expressed interest in having a local dealership have an opportunity to park cars here, and we remain open to that. And I anticipate, as a result of the approvals, the dealership will, once we have something firm, it'll pique their interest, and we're hoping that we can provide space on the site for them. In regards to the hours, understand the concern with the trailers.
Right.
If we need to modify the conditions from 8 to 9, that makes sense out of respect for the residents. And I would like to mention that the way we're configuring the site, the trailers, up to 2 trailers, not that we anticipate 2 at one time, would be able to turn left and be able to stack on the drive-in road on the property before they get to a gate. So it wouldn't be a situation where someone's parked a truck, double parked it, the flashers are on, and is running across the street to open a gate. They'll be able to enter the site and park in the staging area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Mr. Vieira is available also this evening if you ask a difficult question that I can't answer. Thank you.
I'm satisfied.
Before you go,
there's some more.
So can we come to an agreement on the hours? What about the morning hours? 6 to 9?
No, but the hours originally were 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. There was no 6 a.m.
The vehicle transport may deliver new vehicles between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m.
And he just agreed to move it to 9 a.m.
That's good for me, okay? And the evening?
That's on item 5, correct?
That's on item 5, yes, sir.
Thank you.
And the evening, because folks come home at different times.
Yeah, I think.
That's, okay, and the mere fact that they can pull in.
Besides that, they gotta have some hours that they can actually get the vehicles in there. But definitely the evening is better than the morning. Because people get hysterical in the morning if they're gonna be late for work.
Okay, I can go along with that. Vice Mayor?
I had a question earlier around the prioritizing of other Daly City dealerships for storage. I was wondering, I know if there's a overflow needed, Daly City, what do you call it, dealerships would be prioritized, but in general, I'd like to see a stipulation that prioritizes, Daly City dealerships, not just for the excess, but overall.
We've spoken to most of the dealerships in town. We've spoken to most of the dealerships in the peninsula. I don't think we'd want to be compromised to a situation where we have to provide favoritism to someone local, where we could be possibly leveraged. I mean, we have spoken with City Toyota multiple times. If they were here with a lease agreement, we would, for the whole lot, and they were paying market rent, we would sign it at the end of the city council meeting. We're going to continue to talk to them. I don't think we're in a position to make anything set aside of anything more than the additional 0.7 acres that's identified in the documents and that was used to sort of negotiate the MOU.
Vice Mayor, I don't know, what's your thoughts on it? Is that explanation good enough for you? I mean, you don't want to show any favoritism, but yet if someone wants to sign a full lease to say you will give us, say, 10 spots for the next year, and they're willing to sign the lease for those rentals, then there should be no problem.
Yeah, no, we're very interested in City Toyota and any other local dealerships
Sure.
leasing that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, but what I'm hearing from the Vice Mayor is that if it's within Daly City, hopefully, that they would have a more of a priority in, say, maybe even getting a lease, because, these new dealerships, they are concerned about, Toyota brought up the issue about servicing the vehicles from the point of entry. And you made mention at the Planning Commission, there's no servicing on site.
Right.
So they're concerned about the mileage accrual on these vehicles, but we have other dealerships in the city that also sells used cars and may have some extra inventory. So I'm sure what I'm hearing from you, you'd work with our dealerships.
We would, and our goal would be new cars. We want to try and avoid used cars if we can, so we don't get oil leaks of servicing.
Good point.
And then the city engineer wants to give me a call.
Right.
We are incentivized as much as possible to lease to local dealerships, because if we can't move that rock in 2 or 3 years and we have to come back to you for a 1-year extension, I'd like to be able to stand here and say that we've leased a large portion of it to city dealership, you're getting sales tax. You may say to me, can you kick that can 1 more year? We'd like the sales tax in case your development deal's not there. So the incentive is on us to meet the MOU conditions, to try and maximize local tax benefits and revenue. We're going to be spending a considerable amount of money in this continued effort to develop it. The state typically looks for the developer to front the bills and the consultant. So we are motivated, and we're really looking for City Toyota, as a result of tonight's meeting. They were interested in several of the items ahead of us, to tell us what they want, what they need. They have a lot of different options in town. They've made that clear to us. They just need to tell us what they want, so we can move that ball forward too. I hope hope that helps answer the question, please.
No, thank you for the clarification. I think I understand that, of course, you're incentivized to work with the local dealerships, but I mean, I know this is a MOU, and I think incorporating some sort of good faith effort of outreach to the local dealerships would be useful, just to, because like the mayor has said, there are also other dealerships all along maybe Mission Street that would utilize that. And so I'd like to see not necessarily a mandate in this MOU, but I'd like incorporated that there's a good faith effort around your outreach towards the local businesses.
Thank you. And the plan department, Tatum in particular, has been very helpful in sending calls to us for any of the local dealerships. That's sort of what sparked this whole conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are you ready for a motion?
No, not yet, because we have to open it up to public hearing. I do have a card on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to advise that this is the second time that this council meeting has run for so long. Granted, except tonight, we did get started at the actual council meeting at 7:40. And generally at 10 o'clock, I'm supposed to ask my colleagues, do you want to take a break or continue on? I would normally wait to 10:40 to ask that question, but I'll leave it up to my colleagues if you either want to take a break now or we move on.
Let's get
get it
go
done.
and get the hell out of here.
Let's get it done.
I'm obviously not going to make it for the news tonight, but that's okay, too. I think we should keep going. I don't know about the rest of
I
you.
think we should keep going.
Vice Mayor?
I feel fine on moving along.
I'm feeling strong
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
Sir, if you would kindly take a seat, and I'm going to now open it up to public hearing. And we do have a card on this matter, and I'll call up Ms. Gabriella Maxman.
Hi, everyone. So I was pretty vocal about this at the original Planning Commission in March, as well as the City Council meeting on March 27th, and unfortunately I was out of town, and I didn't realize that City Toyota was already involved in this conversation when I talked about it the previous time. One thing that I'd like to bring up is I don't know if there's any options of any sort of additional taxes that we can put onto this lot in order to generate some sort of revenue from the cars that are getting sold that are going to be outside of Daly City. I don't know, just a thought. And you know, I really have to say that I'm really impressed with SciWest and them, you know, coming back and working with the city and you know, really trying to create something there in the meantime, recoup the costs of what they've already spent. And so, you know, it definitely, you know, even beyond the MOU really shows that they want to partner and, you know, it's unfortunate that we can't build anything there right now and that this is the only option. But, you know, I think in the meantime, it's as good of an option as it can be. And hopefully we can work with City Toyota and have them really utilize that space, because then we really benefit the most as a city from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maxman. Request a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
First. Waiting for a second? Okay, for
It's not a
clarification?
pu-
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Madam City Attorney. Okay, so on item number 17, use permit UPR-5-17-12820, temporary new auto storage on vacant drive-in theater site at 607 Carter Street. There's three aspects to this, A, B, and C. So we will be approving a motion for one for the findings, B for category exemption, EA, and UPR-517-128.
So moved with amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, you got that? Did you want to restate? Okay, the hours, okay. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
The amendment wasn't just the hours.
Yes, it was.
Oh.
Oh,
okay.
I am making an amendment.
Oh, you would like
The
to
other
add an
amendment.
additional
Yes,
amendment? Okay,
and
thought
so
you
I
said-
moved
okay.
it, and I'm
All right.
going, thank you very much. Yeah, well, it was with it's a friendly amendment in the MOU, and making a good faith effort to reach out to the local, a good faith effort to reach out, and I'm trusting, and you know, that SciWest is really trying to make sure we're building development in an area that needs it, and then it's echoed over the years and even decades. And I'd like to just stipulate that in the MOU that there's a good faith effort to reach out to our local car dealerships.
Thank you. So on the motion with the included amendment, the hours and the good faith effort to reach out to our local dealership. Motion?
Oh, I already seconded it. Yeah, I'll accept that.
Okay, first and second. Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Gingona?
Yes.
Mr. Buenaventura?
No.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye. Okay, item number 18, award of contract for 2017-2018 fiscal year roadway median and public right-of-way landscape maintenance service. Mr. I see Mr. Fuller or Mr. Fornese? Yes, sir. Welcome.
I had to stop and drink a glass of bottle of Lucerne and my blood sugar was gone.
That's what happens when you get that.
Yeah. 5 hours is my limit. Thank you.
Good evening.
Members of council, I'll try to make this fast.
God bless you.
Public Works is recommending the City Council award a contract to Laurel Landscape of San Mateo in an amount not to exceed $215,000 annually for roadway, median, and public right-of-way landscape maintenance services, and authorize the use and transfer of salary savings from 2 vacant groundskeeper gardener positions in the street maintenance division. The Public Works Department maintains over 25 acres of landscaping and hardscaping on city roadway, medians, and public right-of-ways. We currently have 1 FTE dedicated to maintaining all that. On March 6th, Public Works issued a request for proposal for landscape maintenance services, and we received 2 proposals, one from Rubicon Landscaping for the amount of $98,640, and one from Laurel Landscaping in the amount of $177,144. We are recommending Laurel Landscaping because their proposal, the service level within their proposal is a higher level service level. The Rubicon is proposing basically half of what Laurel Landscaping is proposing. Laurel Landscaping is proposing servicing every site bi-weekly, so once every 2 weeks, litter removal, weed removal, and landscape maintenance services. Rubicon Landscaping is proposing 1 visit per site per month, and some visits don't even include litter removal. So we are also recommending, although we're asking for $215,000, and although the Laurel Landscape bid is $177,000, we're asking for $37,856 for contingencies to pay for the cost of the maintenance to the John Daly Boulevard streetscape project once that is turned over to the city after project completion, and then a slight amount for any unforeseen issues that we come upon during the term of the contract. With that said, staff recommends authorizing the transfer of salary and benefit savings to fund the roadway medians and public right-of-way landscape maintenance services contract and award the annual landscape maintenance contract to Laurel Landscape. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, thank you so much. Any questions from council?
Real quick, Jeff.
Yeah.
I see in the background explanation, it was, we did it in-house, we contracted out.
Yeah.
Did it in-house again, and now we're going to contract out, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is, and you gave some pretty good reasons for it, I think that the fact that we just don't have the capacity or the workforce to be able to do it justifies this kind of expenditure. My question is that has anyone determined what it would have cost us if we would have tried to done it in-house? Or we just don't have the capacity?
We would have to hire 3 more additional FTE.
Got it.
Full-time employees, because even though we have the equivalent of 1 FTE dedicated to providing this type of service, they're often pulled off to go respond to other emergencies that come up, which doesn't allow them to be as responsive to the landscaped area within the right-of-ways as they should be. So we had estimated before this that it would take 4 FTEs to maintain all of the islands and public right-of-ways on an annual basis.
So, and this number that for Laurel Landscaping, after hearing the other proposals, you guys kind of looked at and determined a way to develop a criteria to compare them, correct?
Yeah.
Not just on price.
Yeah,
value,
and
right?
so the Laurel Landscaping is for one example, they would do selective weeding, right? So there are islands, as you know, they're full of
some of
weeds
those
right
weeds
now.
look like plants, yeah. I know.
And so they would go in there and they're gonna pull it out, and then and they'll maintain the vegetation that is mature and they're not gonna damage that
So
vegetation.
they're not going in
Rubicon-
with a
Yeah.
weed eater.
Yeah, well, so Rubicon is, their proposal is say they're gonna go in
Chop
with
it
a
all.
weed whacker and they'll line trim
You don't want that.
3 inches above established vegetation and then let it basically deteriorate.
Oh, no, you don't want that.
Yeah,
So does Laurel Landscaping do a lot of work in the county? Did they work with any other cities?
They
anything
work
like
with
that?
City of San Mateo, and they've done work for the city, or the town of Colma.
Great.
We've had them do projects for us in the past, and they're very consistent with what they tell us they're gonna do, and they've never like changed ordered us or anything
cool.
like that, so.
Jeff, do you foresee us doing this on a yearly basis and
For the
and
time
keeping
being,
costs
yes.
down? All right.
Yeah.
Thanks. I have no
Thank
further
you.
questions.
Okay, any further questions from council? Vice Mayor?
Thank you. You mentioned some of the projects they've worked on previously. What projects in particular?
They, let's see, they provide, let's see here. They've worked with the city of Brisbane. They do the median maintenance for Sierra Parkway and the marina.
Are
and-
there ones that they've done for us in Daly City?
Oh, for us,
Mhm,
sorry.
Sorry.
They maintain the bioswale in front of the ceremony library, and they do, they bid on our project to clear the vegetation along the Vista Grande Canal on an annual basis. So we put that out to bid, and they've won it the last 3 years. And then prior to us taking over the landscape maintenance in 2012 or 10, Laurel Landscape did it for a number of years.
Thank you.
I have a question. Mr. Gangona kind of alluded to it. What would be the cost of 4 FTEs to fill these vacant groundkeepers positions?
It's roughly, including benefits, it's roughly $430,000.
Okay.
Versus the 177 or the 215.
Yeah.
All the contingencies, yeah.
Well, so I can assume that you'll have 4 FTEs from Laurel doing this work?
Well, we would need 4 FTEs because when you include vacation
Right.
and sick leave, and then when we're still shorthanded in the grounds maintenance for our parks and for facility landscaping stuff. So we tend to pile on work depending on where the need is, and so sometimes we have to pull those employees out of the right-of-way to go do other projects. So Laurel Landscape is dedicated three full-time employees, plus they have a supervisor that'll be on call or
Thank you so much.
managing it, yeah.
All right. Any other further questions from council? I don't have any cards, so we won't have to open up to public hearing. So I would need a motion to award of contract for 2017-2018 fiscal year roadway median and public right-of-way landscape maintenance services. The recommended action is to adopt the resolution. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
First? I'm sorry? Oh, that's what I'm waiting for, a second. Can I make the second? All right, I'll second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Gingona?
Yes.
Mr. Buenaventura?
No.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, next item is public appearance, oral communications. Mr. Clapp, thank you so much for waiting. It is now your turn, sir.
I know this is about as popular as bubonic plague, but I'm here representing St. Francis Heights. President Pantasi could
Oh,
not
yes,
appear.
yes.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, very frankly, St. Francis Heights is an organization of over 350 homeowners who feel you don't give one damn about us, any of us. This started way back 2 years ago when we sat and listened to Mr. Somebody from Lennar tell us all the wonderful things they were going to do for us when they did Crestview Estates. It's been over 2 years. They have not delivered on one promise they made. That project up on top of the hill is a blemish on the city. We had experts when we were fighting this tell us if they go residential up there, they can't put more than 45 residences up there. Okay, this council, you were here, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody else was. Approved a contract with Lennar, who was represented by the eminent Senator Yee, I should say, all right? They got the property, and they got permission to build 800 buildings up there, 800. There are now 800 houses up there. It's a dirty, noisy mess up there. It's a St. Francis Speedway now, gang. They're doing 45, 50 miles an hour up and down that street, and they interpret the stop sign as a suggestion. So about half of them stop, and the rest of them are doing 35 by the time they hit my driveway.
Thank you for your comment.
The hill, they were gonna landscape it. It's a mess. It's a fire trap. I've gone to North Central Fire District. Anyway, the people of St. Francis Heights think we are Daly City's forgotten. You really don't care about us up there. Nothing been promised has been delivered. Nothing.
All right,
So
Mr. Clapp.
that's, I'm sorry if I've overdone my time. That's because I'm angry.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. If I can ask the city manager, did they really build 800 homes up there?
No, they did not. There are 79 homes.
80.
Oh, 80. Okay. And,
I'm sorry, I was wrong.
79.
okay.
79
Mr. Clapp,
homes.
would you do me a favor? Send me an email, tell me what promises were made, and I'll look into those for you. Okay? No, not right now, though, but would you do that for me?
President Pat has a complete
Please.
record of
Okay.
everything that was promised.
Thank you.
And
All
that
right.
hill's a fire trap. But
All right.
fortunately, if it catches on fire, it'll burn up 12 of their houses. So
Thank you, Mr. Clapp.
I'm-
All right.
I apologize for taking over my time.
No, you waited long enough to speak, so that's why I gave you a little bit extra time. Thank you, Mr. Clapp, and please come back and see us, okay?
Yeah, right.
No.
Last time.
All right, thank you. Okay, next, we're on public comments, okay. Miss Gabriella Maxman, public forum dumping. Do we have another one? Okay.
Evening. So I drove around my neighborhood, which is essentially Southern Hills today, and there are mattresses everywhere. So there's mattresses up on Crocker, there's mattresses over by Lincoln Park. They're everywhere. And I talked to Javier, and you know, the trash around his business. Sorry, it's too late. I don't remember Javier. I'm sorry, I forgot the name. It's on the corner of Temple.
Mission Edge?
Yes, Mission Edge.
Okay.
Thank you. You know, he's complaining about the trash, and I don't know what the process is here, because I don't think Crocker is part of the street cleaning. Well, I guess street cleaning wouldn't even matter here because it's not in the street, although one of the mattresses was partially in the street. So I don't know, like, shouldn't the city be taking care of this in some sort of cadence? Because I feel like the things are laying there for weeks at a time. And then the second thing, you know, twice today you asked about bicycle racks and or bicycle access in regards to you know, the two of the things that were presented. And Javier would like to put a bicycle rack outside of Mission Edge Cafe, and he's getting he's
getting mixed signals, and it seems like the city is not wanting it and not letting it. And I think in general, you know, it sounds like both of you, the mayor and the vice mayor, are interested in, and now that I'm on the committee, are on the commission, are interested in this. And I think we should consider in general more public bike racks so that our city seems like it's accessible to bicycles, and you know, people riding bicycles. So thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Maxman. Ms. Maxman? Yes? Please stay up at the lectern, please, if you would. Daly City has an app called iHelp. I've used it many times myself. I've actually driven around the city and reported mattresses, toilet bowls being dumped all over the place. And I quickly learned that the city will take care of the matter within 72 hours.
Great.
What's good about the iHelp system, you can access it online or you can even download the app.
Yeah,
And what would help us tremendously if you take a picture and just post it on iHelp, and we will work on that for you. I'm really proud of Daly City for doing that. But at the same time, our city shouldn't have to be cleaning up after folks. I'm hoping that folks will start to love their city as you do, because it bothers you, and I'm sure it bothers a lot of folks. But if people really cared about the city, they wouldn't be dumping in the first place. So help us out and try the iHelp rack. I'd like to congratulate you for being part of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee. There are some things that are forthcoming, so please stay tuned. I'm sure the city manager will keep you apprised, and thank you so much for taking part and wanting to increase the bicycle pedestrian access in Daly City. I wish to thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving ahead, any public? Okay, I have no other public cards. Any appointments, board, commission, membership, committee appointments?
Wait.
Oh, this is for adjournment. Adjournment. It's for adjournment. It's coming.
Okay.
Okay. Any other for board, commission, membership, committee appointments? Hearing none, I'd like to move into council committee reports. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I do have a council committee report on June 13th. We met with you, Mr. Mayor, and the North County Fire Authority. I just wanted to let everyone know the adoption of the July 2017, June 2018 cost allocation was approved.
Any further? I'm going to defer, because I have quite a bit. I'm going to defer, but I promise I'm going to bring it up at another council meeting, perhaps the next one. I'm not going to let you folks off. I'll defer at this time due to time. Any more further for council committee reports? Item number 8, council committee meetings. I've read that we've had a couple of meetings. Does anybody on the dais want to report the result of those meetings? Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll go ahead and ask our Captain Gamis to give us an update on, he can do it now, if you could.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't finish, on the gun buyback program.
Thank you, Mr. Buenaventura. Captain Gamis, thank you so much for being here this evening. This was very important, and that's why I'm sure Councilmember Buenaventura has asked you to come, because I think the public needs to know what our police department is doing and this idea that they have coming up. Thank you, sir. You have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I wanted to take this opportunity to inform the public of a gun buyback program that we're going to be doing at the Cow Palace. On September 9th this year at 9 a.m., the City of Daly City, the Daly City Police Department, and a handful of public and private partners will be hosting a gun buyback program. The event will allow members of the public to turn in functional firearms at the event in exchange for cash, essentially. Preliminarily, it looks like we'll be offering $100 for functional handguns, rifles, and shotguns, and up to $200 for anything that meets the California assault rifle qualification. We're currently working with local donors, members of council, on specifics for the plan, and we will plan on putting those specifics out through our social media programs as we get closer to the event. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Captain Gamez. Question?
Is that event also going to be available to accept ammunition? Or just the ammunition-free gun?
Just an ammunition-free gun, yes.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor?
Do we have the time of the event?
Yeah, 9 a.m.
9.
until noon on the 9th of September.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Captain Gamez. I just wanted to say that I know that you and the chief have worked really hard at coordinating this. I think it's going to be a very successful event. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
We are too. Thank you.
Captain Gamez, also, just for point of clarification, as I think it's 2018 of January, a license will be required that you register with the Department of Justice if you are going to buy any ammo. But for right now, you can buy all the ammo you want, and we will post on our flyer, it must be ammo-free, because that will lead to possible dangerous, even though the police department has it covered for controlled situations, but we definitely want it to be ammo-free. Captain Gamez, thank you so much, and I thank the Chief of Police also for collaborating and putting this together as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any further for City Council?
City
Vice Mayor?
Council, yes, I do. I have one item that I'd like to bring forth to the members here. I'm asking for a letter of support. Basically, there is, I don't know if people know the Soma Pilipinas. It's basically a cultural heritage district in San Francisco, and currently as a semifinalist in getting an award to be one of the state cultural districts, with Daly City being one of the largest concentration of Filipinos of any municipality in the continental United States. I'd like to ask my colleagues here to support this letter to ask the California Cultural Districts Review Panel to support this regional hub for culture, and it's right there in San Francisco, so I'd like to ask the support of my colleagues. I have the letter right here.
I have no objection.
Council Member Gingona indicated he has no objections to supporting.
No objection.
I join.
Okay, so it looks like it's unanimous, Vice Mayor, and
Thank you very much.
all right, great. Okay, any staff reports?
You can have it.
Thank you, Ms. Martell. All right, next item, we have quite a few, and this is an adjournment. I'm going to first call up Ms. Marie Bruzuela. I caught you. Because you've been here all night, and I at least want you to go first in providing us some information about Mr. Wayne Johnson, to which we will adjourn this meeting also on.
I didn't bring anything with me to say.
That's okay.
But Wayne Johnson has been in Broadmoor for, I think it's 54 or 55 years. He was a police commissioner. Well, first he was just a supporter, being on the Broadmoor Property Owners Association. And it was a sad situation because there were 2 members of the commission out of 3 that took it upon themselves to come to Daly City before your time and to ask for them to take over Broadmoor. And unfortunately, they did not go through the people. There was no vote. There was no vote at the commission. So they got an attorney, and they were able to get back to keep our police department. So after that, he won his election. They voted the 2 men out of office, and he was one of the commissioners from that time until last year. He also, at one time when the police department were low in funds, a lot of our tax base was taken away, he himself hired an attorney and paid for the insurance to keep our police department. Some of the few things that he did for many, many years to keep Broadmoor the way Broadmoor should be. Unfortunately, he had been ill, and he passed away. And so his daughter was here taking care of him. She would have been here tonight, but she left Sunday to go back home where she lives down south, gather the rest of her stuff. Her and her husband are moving up here into her father's home. So she hopes to continue his legacy of helping Broadmoor. So I think tonight would be a wonderful time if you would close in memory of Wayne Johnson for the many, many years of public service that he gave to a small community that needed a lot of help. Besides that, he also was on our Broadmoor Property Owners Board, and tremendous job. I mean, he would do anything anybody asked him to do. And it's a big loss that we lost him. And I could say a lot more, but I don't want to take time. The other thing I wanted to invite all of you is on Saturday, February the 15th, we're going to have at the Broadmoor Community Center a celebration of life. What did I say?
February.
Oh. Yes, I know.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. July 15th at 2 o'clock, there will be a celebration of life, and we invite all of you to come over. Daly City actually owns a piece of property in Broadmoor on Wildwood Avenue down the street from me. So naturally, you guys all should come and share with us. And I want to also thank Mayor Sylvester, because he has known Wayne for many, many years through the police service. Oh, I forgot to mention, he was also, he was the police chief for Colma, and another police officer. He was an officer in for Broadmoor as well before he became the commissioner. So all of that stuff is the things that he's done. We asked you to come, enjoy. There'll be a lot of food, a lot of good things saying about him, and we expect to have a plaque made for him, and it'll be hanging on the memorial board outside of, on the wall outside of the hall. So
Thank you, Ms. Brizuela, and thank you for your patience in staying over tonight. I know it was difficult. Thank you so much. Okay, I have additional names that I would like to adjourn in memory. First is Mr. Balmore Aliman Preza. He is the father of Lola Casanova Preza. He recently passed, and he'll be buried in, I believe it's El Salvador. He was a high school teacher and also taught English as a second language at City College, and he will be, and a community activist. He will be sorely missed. We also have a Joe Finnegan, San Francisco police officer, recently passed, and very well known amongst other officers. He will be sorely missed. I had the opportunity to attend the services of a Mike Lafiti. He was the one of the victims of the mass shooting tragic incident that happened at UPS. He was well known. I'd like to thank the chief of police and in the procession, which was over 250 vehicles from San Francisco, culminating in Colma. Also, we have Edward J. Nevin Jr. He was the father of Mike Nevin, former Daly City mayor, council member, and San Mateo County supervisor. We have 2 city employees and/or their immediate families. We have a Belen Encarnacion, who's the mother of police public records clerk Grace Dumandan, and also a Kenneth L. Fuller, father of public works director John Fuller. So if I can request a moment of silence at this time. Thank you so much. I know there's one more, but we'll do that next one. I thought someone told me there was one more. I didn't see it here.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you so much.